Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. I'm calling the Goffstown Budget Committee to order. The first thing on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the committee should have received the agenda earlier today. Danielle usually has printed copies. I haven't seen her yet, but I'm just going off that agenda from today. So with that, we'll go into a roll call. Samantha.
Samantha Kern.
Olivia Welch-Erdol.
Doug Pounds.
Peter Grigorokakis.
Mark Renaud.
Joe Alexander.
Frank Hobbs.
Jack Carbonell, School Board Rep.
Kelly Boyer, Select Board Rep.
Israel Carey.
Brian Mazer.
Elizabeth DeBrule.
Laura Stevens.
Allison DeCesare.
Richard Manzo.
And I have Derek Horn here for staff support and department heads here. And I believe we have a quorum of the select board, so welcome. Thank you for coming. Now I'm going to open up for public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Next thing on the agenda is approval of minutes from our meetings in the past. I haven't seen the minutes yet. I don't think anybody else has, so we're going to table that again. Old business. I have nothing for old business. So tonight, the plan is to go through budget deliberations, Parks and Rec, and the library, because I believe the department chairs or department heads aren't available next week. So we're going to definitely go through those two, followed by the fire department and town hall. So this is the packet that we're looking at. We're going to jump around a little bit. We're not going to go in like numerical order like we do with the schools. So, this is our budget for as long as we need it, so we can look into that. But I did want to start by calling on Elizabeth DeBrule, who had something to say about the budget starting, kind of kick off a discussion, and then we'll move into deliberations.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. So I pulled together last night from the information that we received sort of a summary sheet of everything that we're looking at for this year on the town side. And the total spending increase is 3.2 million, or it's a 13% increase. I broke it down by department to see which departments were asking for how much of increases, and we can talk about that as we go. Then I started to break down within the departments to see where the areas of increase really are in the numbers, and I was still kind of making my way through that. But I think the committee needs to get a sense of where we're starting from, and how much work is before us if we are not comfortable with a 13% increase. And I think we need to really understand where those increases are. Now, let me clarify, a 13% increase does not translate into a 13% tax increase, because there are additional revenues. And a few of those I had questions about. But even when you factor in the higher revenues, you're looking at about an 11% tax increase on the town side. And I don't want to get us locked into anything, but I think we need to sort of have a discussion about if we think that's okay, or if we land somewhere in that ballpark, or if we want to end up somewhere differently. That's it.
Yeah, is there any discussion on this to start? Frank?
Can I just ask you a question, Elizabeth? You said 13% increase. You said there was an increase in revenues. Do you have a percent increase in revenues?
Yes, it's 11%, but it's not, I don't know if I was trying to explain this to you earlier, because it's 11% of what the revenues are, which is 775,000, right? Give or take, Derek? But I would say it's in our packets.
No, I think it's 7 million.
Oh, 7 million,
Yeah, I
sorry.
think you're off
Forgot a zero.
by a digit.
So it's the revenues are going up 11%.
Of a much smaller number.
Of a much smaller number.
Gotcha.
And the spending is going up 13% of a much larger number. So they don't, because initially when I saw that, I'm like, oh, they'll cancel each other out. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't come out right. So when you look at what the town has estimated the tax impact will be, which is in our packet, it's an 11% increase. And I guess for me, like, before we do anything, I really want to understand what that increase is, what's causing that increase, before I just start, before any of us start making changes, I think we really need to get a sense of where we are.
Yeah, and from what we spoke about, I believe it's 12 to 15% department by department. It's not just like one department that's driving the
No, it's
the
not one
increase.
department.
It's consistent across the board,
Yes. Yes,
which is
so.
interesting.
So with the exception of fire, which is 4%, however, again, the spending numbers are not actually entirely accurate because fire is going to have had a decrease in revenue because of those SAFER grants. So, I mean, before we start each department, I can give you the percentage increase. But again, I really want to know, I really want to get a better feel for what is driving those increases. Even if you accept inflation as being 3.4%, in which case default would be below the rate of inflation, because default, I think, is about 3%. It's still, it's a big increase. Now, the increase that I have for this year on the town side with the default budget is only 2%, which is well below inflation. So some of that might be making up for that because this year's budget is not keeping up with inflation. So they're trying to do the same thing they've done with less money. So next year, maybe some of that is making up for that, but still, I think we need to look at this from a more holistic viewpoint.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. Laura?
Thank you. Yeah, going right off of that actually is, I feel like because, like 11%, that feels and seems high to me personally. It's interesting that across the board, it's fairly even. It's not like one department for some reason, even though the departments carry very different numbers as far as their full budget. One of them isn't, extreme comparatively. But we're already sort of, this isn't necessarily a question, just we're already sort of working from like a couple steps behind because we're not even sort of caught up to inflation, if that is the right way to say it. So I guess we have to consider that, because if we had sort of steadily increased a little every year, we might not be at 11%. But since we're trying to keep it low but make up for inflation and fill the needs, it's going to be at least a little higher, just simple math-wise, if we try to keep the same services. Does that make sense? Is that right?
Yes, although, I mean, like you, I'm on the same Facebook page as you are on, and everybody was just freaking out about their tax bill. And when I
Right.
what I think is interesting is how few people save their tax bills over the years. So I've saved every tax bill I've ever received since I moved into my house 20 years ago. So when people claim, oh, my taxes tripled in 2 years, I go back and I look at my tax bills and I'm like, no, not unless you built an addition or bought another piece of property, or they didn't. But when I did my calculation from last year to this year, it was about a 6% increase. Now, maybe that was wrong because I'm still a little confused about like, your tax year doesn't correspond perfectly to the calendar year and the new rate kicks in, like, I don't know, it's a little confusing to me. And when DRA, right, DRA, like when they set the tax rate, and so it's not like you can say 2024 taxes, 2023 taxes, because they're staggered. But when those numbers don't add up to me, it makes me uncomfortable. And it makes me nervous about why am I only seeing a 2% tax increase according to this budget from last year, but a 6% reflected in the tax bill. And maybe it is because of that staggering, I don't know. That 6%, by the way, was town and school. This 2% is only town.
Peter?
Sorry, I think I'm missing what you mean by the 2% and the 6%.
So my taxes, actually, if you look at how much money I physically paid, it went up 6%.
Yep.
According to these numbers, the numbers from between the 2023 budget and the 2024 budget, it's only a 2% increase
Is that of your expenses?
on the town.
The expenses?
Yeah, you might be right on that.
So wouldn't,
But it-
it's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So wouldn't that, some of it would have to do with the offsetting income that
That's
would have been
true.
for last year?
That's true.
So,
Yeah,
you know, if they had grants or any of the ESSER funds coming in or whatever. I mean, the town has not ESSER funds, obviously, but that would help offset, so you,
Except our revenues were low last year. Our revenues were lower than they were in 2023.
but I wonder what they were in 2022, towards the end of COVID. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially since you're looking at it with the school and town for your taxes going up, right? So some of that would be impacted by extra funding that the schools would still have been getting after COVID in
Yes,
2022, or
possibly.
using those funds instead of us paying for those things. I'm just trying to help you.
No, I agree. I
figure
mean,
out-
and
yeah,
I
it's-
don't mean to turn this into, let's spend this meeting talking about Elizabeth's taxes.
No, no, I know.
But my point is that people in this community are dealing with this in real numbers. And we are looking at this from the other side of this equation, and we're trying to get these two things to kind of match, to find reasonable ways to continue with the services we need and make this affordable for people who are living it. And so I guess I'm trying to match this up, and I think I'm saying an 11% tax increase, I think, is going to be almost impossible to sell. And I think unless we have some extraordinary reason, I don't see us being able to pass that. And I worry, I'd rather see the town have a budget that passes than end up with a default budget again.
Peter?
So in terms of the math, I think there's reasons it's not going to line up, because there's just other things we're not putting in the math here, right?
Right.
You're just putting in the town's operating budget, so yeah, it won't line up math-wise. But the math that matters, I think, is obviously taxes at the end of the day. Is it wrong of us to ask of our town folks or our town employees to help us out with putting together the math on, like, let's say we support this entirely, we support the school budget as is, you know, we support what they're looking for. What are we looking for dollar for dollar? Right, what are we looking at dollar for dollar after? I know that we can't do that perfectly, because we have to think about how the tax rate gets set, but essentially, we just want to know, like, well, what is this going to cost people? I don't know that I see a whole bunch of cuts, but the reality is we're talking about a huge spending increase though. So we should definitely know if we're on board with this or not.
Doug?
So I'm hearing spending increase and at the same time revenue cuts based on what was being said.
Revenue
too.
cuts last year. Next
year.
year's revenue is actually higher. Because a large part of it is that culvert project that they got so much funding for, which is not in the default. And like, that is something that I think we should absolutely be going forward with. We're getting 90% of that paid for by somebody else. So I think there are these little pieces we're going to need to look at. Yeah. I would prefer to work with them and try and come up with something that's feasible.
Samantha?
Does so I think the general tone is that 13% is too high. What number is acceptable, knowing that zero is unrealistic? I would say even 7 would probably be unrealistic. So like, I'm trying to think of like what, because I think that you're right, like, I think the most important thing is having a budget that gets passed, right? Because having going into default again is a bad idea. So finding something that we can all agree on, realizing that there is going to be an increase, and I guess kind of coming to terms with like the realization of that, right? Like, it's not going to be 0. And figuring out what that number is, and so I'm wondering like what people think that number could be.
Well, and we've dealt with this before. I think Peter was, like, I hate to arbitrarily just set a percentage, because I feel like you either you either want to provide this service to the community or you don't.
Right.
And like, it's not like, setting a number kind of like confines us
Yeah.
to it. But I agree 11% too high. I don't think 7% increase is unfeasible. I don't think a 3% is unfeasible. I mean, it's just like, what do we want to provide as services to our town? And I think that we're going to have a lot of discussions in the next couple meetings, but like, we might not agree on what specifically we would like to offer, so. But setting a percentage ahead of time, like, kind of binds us up.
Okay.
I'm going to go Allison and Kelly.
I mean, I'm also considering, I know it sounds like 13% is too high, as everyone will say, but you kind of really have to think about how many of those things we don't really have a choice on, or the taxpayers have kind of already put them into play. So within that portion, they already said, yeah, we want to give the teachers all raises. Well, that doesn't come from nowhere.
That's in the default.
True. Right,
But then they have to cut
but are you, so you're saying it's going 13,000 above the default?
No,
I mean,
the-
13%, I'm sorry, 13% above default?
No, above last year's budget. So 3%, default is 3% higher than the current budget.
Okay.
The proposed budget is 13% higher. So it's
Okay,
10%
so it's another
higher.
10% on top of
But
the
again,
default.
there's only an 11%
Right,
tax
yeah.
increase, so it's less than that. I guess we're gonna have to do line by line. That's a bare minimum of what we need to do. But I think we need to do it all with this mindset of trying to figure out where these expenses are coming from and understanding that that proposed budget is probably not a number that, my feeling is, I don't think it's a number this committee's gonna be comfortable moving forward with.
Kelly?
I just, too, wanted to add, because I realize we're talking about last year versus this year, is that last year's default budget was, we're going off a default budget, not off of what was proposed, so there's a larger gap in between the two. And I realize everyone understands that, but I'm just saying it out loud, is that we're really kind of one behind. So, I agree that I think people have to ask the questions instead of the amount, because, the select board has worked with the department heads to already cut $1 million out of the budget. Not saying that there's not more conversation around that, but they have, have given us the things that they're willing and capable of doing without. So, I just want to encourage you all to ask the questions about things and, understand the numbers, whether they're justified or not is up to you.
Okay, Laura, then Olivia.
Thank you. I understand how it seems like throwing out a percent is counterproductive maybe, but there were a whole lot of people last year that proposed a cap of 2.5, and some of those people are sitting in this room. And that was just a number that was thrown out as well. So just want to make that clear.
If you want to partner and do a 2.5% increase, I'm down to do that. I mean.
No, I'm
show-
just saying,
show me
though.
parts in the budget to do it.
I'm
I
just
totally
saying,
support
like-
2.5%.
No, that's not what
Oh,
I'm
okay.
saying.
All right.
I'm saying, Samantha, because I was thinking along the same line of like, should we work towards 9? Should we have something in mind that seems more palatable, and then see how close to that we can get? Like, should we, still going line by line, work towards something? And you stated that throwing out a percent didn't really make sense, but that 2.5 was thrown out and people were willing to just insist upon that. So that's just hypocritical.
Awesome. Olivia?
So going off the 2.5 from last year, I'm not concerned so much as a specific number to kind of focus on right now, but that the public needs to understand that while we're committed to put a budget forward that can pass, that by not coming even close to the 13% of increase is going to mean drastic changes in what they experience at each of the departments. If every single department is relatively even in what they're presenting, Goffstown's going to see huge, huge changes. And I think, including the people that have advocated for a tax cap, including the people that fought tax caps, it's going to be a really big impact. And I think we need to keep that in mind as well.
Frank?
These are conversations that are being happened around dinner tables everywhere in Goffstown right now by families. our taxes go up, where are we going to find the money? What do typical citizens do when that happens? They tighten the belt. That's what we're talking about. Our charge is properly funding our departments and getting our department heads what they need within a reasonable realm. So when a family has an issue regarding, we don't have enough money, there's two ways to make cuts. They make them around the edges or the excesses, or they make fundamental cuts of, is this particular item we're spending money on, is this yielding the result we want? And I think we need to look at fundamentally what we're spending money on. Are we getting the result for it? Because after all, it's the taxpayers' money, and they deserve no less.
Laura?
I think that's pretty much what Olivia was saying, in a different way, which is that, yeah, like when you tighten up at home, you have to say, okay, these are huge things we're gonna cut out. That's what we need people in town to know as well. If we're gonna have to really tighten up, huge things could potentially be cut. And what does that look like for town if, say, because there are towns that say, and I'm not suggesting this, but there are towns that say, okay, every department, give me a budget that's 10% lower than this. What does that look like for fire, for police, for services that we do count on and we do use and people will feel if they're not there?
Allison?
I would also say, Frank, that I feel like that's not a great example, because when you're cutting your own personal budget, it impacts you. It doesn't impact anybody else. You can personally prioritize what you are willing to get rid of and what you feel like you have to keep. When we're sitting here in a room full of this many people and impacting a town as big as Goffstown, that is a whole different story, because what you think is not important likely contradicts with what I think is important. So you can't just arbitrarily say, it's like, oh, doing a family budget, you just tighten it up, but I don't know who you decide doesn't get to choose. But it's a very different idea.
Go ahead, Frank.
Well, I would just say, we've been hearing it from members all day today. Everybody's upset about the amount of taxes. So as a citizen, how do you let your elected representatives know? Well, they tell us. They're on social media. They let us know. So they're doing their best job to say, listen, taxes went up too high, we need to rein it in. And they've elected us to make sure our departments are funded properly, but reasonably. And that, in my opinion, we need to look at fundamentally, are we getting the best we can for our citizens?
Okay. So my question when people say that to me is, what are you willing to cut? And I've literally never asked that question and had anybody give me an actual response. They just blanket say, the taxes are too high. What do you want to get rid of? What would you like to stop? Where do you see an overspending? And not a one of them has really ever looked at any of this information, from my experience. Maybe you see differently, and if you do, then feel free to let us know what they want to get rid of. If they'd like to cut fire or police, or get rid of the library altogether and sell the building. I mean, these are, like Olivia said, this is going to impact our entire town when we're making cuts, and I'm not saying we shouldn't, but you cannot decide, I mean, you're literally deciding some people's lives in some cases. And no one seems to have an answer when I ask them.
Well, that's what,
Olivia?
well, I was going to just say,
No,
that's
I
why
get a
they
turn
elected
too
us to
here,
go
Chris.
through 5,000 lines of budget code.
Okay.
When the average person in town is working a regular job, does not have time to look through the fire budget, the police budget, the town budget. They elected us to take those deep dives.
No,
Okay,
they.
thank you, Frank. Olivia,
okay.
go.
First off, they elected us to provide them a recommended budget, not to do all the research for them. People in town need to be aware of what's going on, whether that's going to meetings, whether it's finding resources, probably not only on social media. Second of all, Goffstown has been bragging about doing more with less for decades. It's been the more for less, more for less. Now we're at the less for less. We're getting less for less. Soon it's going to be worse, because if we do not increase any spending ever, all of them are going to leave. Okay, we don't keep getting the department heads who care and keep doing more with less if we show them absolutely no value and absolutely no support. It just doesn't happen.
Okay, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I mean, and I know I took us off track, but I do think this is an important discussion to have just in general. But I also think we have to recognize the whole range of people for whom we are responsible, which is, there are people in town who literally cannot afford their taxes. There are people in town who can afford their taxes but don't want to pay them because they don't value the services. And there is a sizable chunk of people in this town who want more, who want nicer buildings and more services, and they're willing to pay for them. And we never talk about them, but they're out there. And we're employers. We have employees that we are responsible for treating fairly and making sure that we retain them so that they stay here. So, I mean, we have all these groups that we have to be mindful of going forward. And I know that, that is zero helpfulness in what we have to do, but I think sometimes people don't understand the complexity. Not the people around this table, we get the complexity, but the people watching out there may not understand the complexity of what everybody is trying to do. And all the different people that we are trying to help.
Okay, Peter?
First off, very important, I think. So, I'm going to speak to a concern that I have. First off, I'm going to be optimistic. We somehow find some things in here where by doing our job that we're supposed to do around this table, we find some stuff, we're like, oh, wait, no, we really can, make some cuts here and actually move forward in a meaningful way. So let's be optimistic, let's keep doing our job, I think. But let's say we do our job and we move forward. I have seen evidence in the past of us continuing to get the services that we have year over year. And the way I put it, we're subsidizing it with future taxpayers, essentially. We get to get our cheaper taxes, which is not cheap because our taxes are going up. But essentially, last year we had a default, right? And yet, I don't think we cut any services, right? I don't believe we had any services cut. What that means to me is you got to find the money. And if we're finding the money, then we're taking it out of savings, which is supposed to be used for us to invest in the future. Or we're taking it out of things that we were supposed to be investing in, right? We didn't make those capital investments. We're not making capital investments. We are being subsidized by future taxpayers because they have to be paid for at some point. So my fear, and I hope that our department heads are hearing this, is if we're doing this and we're saying, shoot, we really can't, we don't want to see taxes go up by X dollars, then we're going to have to see something happen, right? And that we're not seeing that someone else is going to have to pay for it in the future because we're not going to make those capital expense investments.
Okay, so
Okay.
I think that,
One more?
Jack. Can't see you
Just
down there.
sorry, I'll just throw it out one more time. Keep looking, never find that. New Hampshire's one of the lowest 5 tax burden states. So it's not the fact that we're not doing more with less, right? It's about the way we collect our taxes, which is something we have no power over. So you want to argue that property tax is more regressive than sales tax or income tax, then that's an argument that can be had, but it can't be solved. But you can't say that we haven't lost services, right? Because we're not filling, the police station isn't filled with people overflowing with enough officers or as much as they wish they had. The school can't fill their staff positions, they can't find paras because of the price, because of what we pay, right, is where it really comes back to, of a large part of it. I'm not saying that's the only thing. Right, and I think you find that going down other things, and as you cut these things, just because the whole police station doesn't close, or every road doesn't get plowed in a timely manner, because the department didn't fail, doesn't mean that we're not lacking services that we used to have, or that the departments aren't feeling that pressure, right? So I would like to know that Elizabeth said 6% she thought of property taxes went up, right? Is that, did
Yeah.
I say that right? Which I think is a little skewed because the way the second half affects the first half.
Right.
So it's probably something less than 6% that it went up. So that's the number, regardless of whether the budget went up 13%, 10%. I mean, that would obviously change. But it's more like a 5 or 4% number in property tax increase, would be my guess.
There's always a lag too with town,
Right,
right? Because
understood.
you're doing all this later. So when inflation was really high, we had no increase.
Right.
And then now inflation has started to come back down and you're doing it sort of retroactively.
Okay. So with that, I think we're gonna move in. I wanna start with Parks and Rec. So that is page 14. I'm looking at this sheet, this packet we got, page 14. I just have the presentation out too, just to follow along with that. It's towards the end of our presentation. I'll give the committee a second, if I need one to. Oh, yeah, I mean, they can come up if they want.
However you want to do it.
What page on the PowerPoint is it? Do you remember?
On the PowerPoint or on the
Oh, I see.
large?
I'm just looking at the presentation too.
Page 32.
32.
Try that. What I'm guessing.
Yeah, okay.
You're close.
34.
34.
All right, so this is mainly just one page. Rick, are you planning, is the CIP project, is that being offered as a special warrant, or is that gonna be in the
At this
budget?
point, it is still in your operating budget.
It's in the operating budget?
Under CIP.
Okay. Here.
Rick, I know, I think I asked you this aside from the meeting the other time, but when we're looking at regular wages, again, this is for part-time, sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, part-time, 2024 year-to-date, for this year, we're looking at 88, or we had 88,000, and we expect that's gonna be about what it is for the full year, because that's after our big push, right?
Yep.
Okay. I think I had mentioned, that's probably a line that I'd be looking to cut down. What other expenses, like, how much of our FICA is wrapped up in our part-time, per se?
There are values in there for each one of those, Medicare, FICA, all those, but they're probably nickel dime, based on the hourly rate of that individual. That is a line, if you want to put that on the block and bring that down to 106,729, you're good to go.
Wow, you had a number.
Wow.
All right, so every department head, follow Rick's lead. Just kidding. Do what you need to do.
And the reason for that,
Yeah, you
When
had
I-
a specific number, so I assumed you had a reason.
Yeah, that was very, very,
the reason for that, after evaluating, and it's, you look at like FTAs, full-time positions, and you break it all out, and when I'm looking at the hours, probably for the last 2-3 years consistently, we have not filled the hours with our lifeguards and grounds area, for various reasons.
Yeah.
And you've always budgeted for those FTAs to be filled. Well, I don't think we're not filling them the way, they're there, the bodies are there, but they're not covered, they're not working. They don't want to work. But anyhow, so you gotta kind of help. I mean, I jump in, fill in, because somebody's sick, whatever, can't make it, going on vacation, those kinds of things. That's what I'm saying. So, looking at that for the hours, we're gonna take some of those hours out of that. And I think that's how we're coming up with that lower number, if that makes sense.
Okay, Brian?
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a good conversation. I think that the place where I'm at and I'm wrestling with, and I know we're going to be getting it from the school, we're going to get a detailed current staffing report with all roles, responsibilities, and their associated wages. So I think that's coming, and I was going to ask the committee, could we get the same thing from the town? Because to me, this is sort of, to deliberate, this is kind of premature, because I want to see all positions within each respective department and division to see potentially where there's overlap versus going into line item, because to me, regular wages, part-time, doesn't really tell me much. So I'm asking for more.
22 positions, Brian.
I know, but I want to see roles and responsibilities and their wages.
They help kids in the summer camp for 8 hours a day. 9 of those people facilitate 85, 90 kids throughout the whole day running programs. Lifeguards guard the pool.
Yeah.
They do what they have to do from 12 till 8 p.m., 7 days a week, nine weeks out of the year. Grounds guys are working 7 to 3. That's 3:30. Doing grounds work. Mowing all those fields, everything that I showed you in those, helping with that process.
No, and I appreciate that. I think to me, it's like, I'm a very visual
Well,
guy.
I don't know how to be more visual about that side of it. I mean, that's kind of what it is.
What I would love to see is a spreadsheet of all these functions, these roles and responsibilities and their wages. So it's very visual.
Wages are anywhere from $14 an hour to $18 an hour,
Yep.
depending on the amount of time they were there. The exact number for per person, if that's what you want, I'll give it to you. But I don't know where you're going with that. I mean, that's it in the part-time wage.
I'm going to let Danielle answer it, and I'm go to Olivia.
So, two different things. On the part-time wages for the associated lines for FICA and Medicare, FICA is 6.2% and Medicare is 1.45%. So if there's a reduction in the part-time wages, we would calculate those percentages for the associated lines and provide those to you for part of your motions.
Okay.
As for the information from the school, just to make sure I understood correctly, the motion at the last meeting was for the school to provide job descriptions in an organizational chart for all of the admin positions. That's all I had relayed to the school. The school has not received any directive from this group on wages by position across all positions.
I don't think you meant that.
That's not what, I
You
don't,
didn't
I
mean
think we were
teachers
just
and
specifically
everybody
looking at
for the
admin.
school.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I had provided them with the correct marching orders from the last motion.
That's, I made the motion, and that is what I requested, is what you just
The
said.
job, okay, because that's what they're gathering to bring to the meeting on the 12th.
Yeah.
And I know, as far as visual aspect goes, in the town's presentation, every department provided an organizational chart of the positions and identified which ones were full-time, which ones were part-time.
I think it's inappropriate as budget committee members to take it upon ourselves to tell department heads what positions they need and don't need. It's one thing to look at the money that's being spent under things like wages, but to say, no, you don't need an assistant, or no, you need less lifeguards, or whatever it is, that is not our job. That is not what we do. We don't fill department positions.
Brian?
Thank you, Chair. Respectfully, Olivia, that is incorrect. It's definitely in our purview. Absolutely, because I'll give you an example. Say, for instance, we have IT department in school, IT department in town. And we have separate functions that would manage that. Why couldn't we increase efficiencies to have a function to manage both IT infrastructures? That's a private example. So that is in our purview where we can potentially save monies, where we can consolidate roles. Absolutely, it is in our purview.
I'm really not, like, if a budget committee member has a question of a department head, I'm gonna let them ask the question, whether you believe it's in their purview or not. I mean, I had a question
Okay,
last
I have a
meeting.
question for Rick then.
Go ahead, Olivia, what's your question?
Rick, do you feel like you have the positions that you need underneath you?
Yes, with what the dollar amount I said there, yeah, we're doing fine with our seasonal, part-time wages. In our full-time wage line, we are now, yes, fine with the folks that we have.
Okay, so you don't feel that you have an excess amount of
I don't think
lifeguards
we're
or
wasting the tax dollars
groundskeepers?
money whatsoever.
Okay, thank
You're
you.
getting a hell of a lot of money for what, you're getting a hell of a lot of bang for your buck out of this. Sorry.
Elizabeth?
So this, you're first, Rick, so you get to be the sacrificial person.
I
for
guess
all
so.
this stuff. Right. So this is a great example, and this is where I think most of the increase is coming from, which is, the select board made a decision last year with the default budget to still give a cost of living increase to non-union employees. Is that correct, Kelly? Do you
It
remember
is.
what the percentage was?
Well, it's kind of correct. Derek's shaking his head because he can break down the.
So it wasn't a cost of living
Yeah.
increase. It was to implement the compensation plan for non-union employees.
Okay, so that's like a stepped program,
Yes, it
basically.
was
So-
to move them to a new matrix to bring them up to closer to the average of the market.
Okay, so, and I do not disagree with that decision. I think that that was a very good decision. Especially when you look, there's like so many papers here, this study that the town was done. So Parks and Rec, our Parks and Rec department is paid on average 10% below the market value. All of our employees are paid below the market value. So the fact that we would want to invest in trying to keep their wages up seems like a smart decision to me, because we don't want all those people to quit. We would be in a huge mess if they did, and we'd have to pay more to hire new people to get them in. So can I just ask, Kelly, is there a plan, are we trying to close that gap? The average on the town side, according to what Derek gave us, is a 8.3% below market is the overall amount that we're up under. Are we trying to close that gap? Are we just trying to keep up? What's the plan?
So the plan that we implemented was to bring our staff, because each position was studied based on job description with an abundance of data, like hundreds of pages worth of information. And then the calculations to bring our staff members up to the 60th percentile of the wage matrix for what other comparable positions make in the state. I think, did we end up removing the one Massachusetts town? I can't remember. We didn't compare.
There were a couple right on the border
Yeah.
that were included.
So in that plan, we had to implement it because, well, we didn't have to implement it. We chose to implement it because we had done the study. And if we waited a year or two to implement, they would still be even further behind from where they were. So the choice to move them to the 60th percentile is to keep them on the path to where other increases are across the state. So no, the next phase of that isn't going to move them to like the 70th percentile or the 80th percentile.
So in 1 year, you're talking in this budget, they are moving from 8% below market to 60%.
8% below market, yeah. It will, it's like two different things when you're talking about the market. It's the percentiles of, and please feel free to help explain this, but the percentiles of other comparable positions in the field, in the state, with a comparable job description. They put them on, like, you're at 100% of that pay range, and this move to increase our non-union employees was to get them to the 60th percentile. So in doing that, we have to keep up with adjustments moving forward, or else they're going to fall even further behind.
So can I ask why we picked the 60th percentile and not the 50th percentile? Which 50th would be the average, if I'm understanding you correctly.
No, they're both raising their hands.
So I think the select board, we advised them to choose the 60th percentile, knowing that we were doing the study in August of 2023 to be implemented July 1st of 2024. It wasn't, so you're studying the market and then you're letting the market continue to move because a lot of towns will implement pay changes on January 1st as part of their operating budget, and others will do it on date of anniversary. So the decision was shoot for the 60th, knowing that you're going to be implementing a full year later.
And that was, we had also been given 70 percentile and 75th percentile, and we chose the lowest option that would keep them on the year ahead, if that makes sense.
Current.
So in the time that their wages moved, the goalpost, right, of that 100th percentile also moved within that year time frame.
Okay, by 10%? That's a big jump.
In some areas, yeah.
What, did you guys discuss a phased-in approach?
We did, a couple of them. Yeah, this was something that the select board worked on for months, and they worked on with all the department heads for how many months?
About a year?
Yeah,
Start to finish.
about a year. So a phased approach for moving them up to the 60th percentile. I don't know how many different variations we even looked at. But again, the equity, and if one of those couldn't be met, how far back it would push them and off a cycle of trying to get them to an equitable place was a concern of ours, that, go ahead, Daniel.
Just thinking back to some of the conversations, in addition to the market changing over the year of the study itself, so data's collected at the beginning of the study, the study's completed by August of 2023, and then implemented another year later, you're actually looking at more than a year from data collection to implementation. Additionally, during that phase, we weren't having COLAs. And then once the study is released, you're also announcing to all of the townspeople, as well as all the employees, that you've been underpaying your employees significantly below the market, below, on an average of more than 8% below the market.
Do you think
for
they don't know
years.
that?
Huh?
Do you think they don't know that now?
But when they hear it as a percentage in a final report, and then the select board were to perhaps look at different phased approaches, it's a lot more difficult to tell people, now we know for a fact, we have data that we are behind significantly, and we may choose to do nothing about it via a phased approach. So we looked at very different options. The select board looked at numerous options, and in the end, they had decided to make the shift, but only implement a half year to get people current.
So, this is kind of a philosophical question for the committee, because the budget was voted down last year, and the select board decided that this was very important, that they wanted to keep this. So they made other decisions in the budget in order to make this work. And I don't necessarily know if that's respecting the will of the voters or not, and I guess, it's kind of up to us, do we want to continue on the same plan that they put forward, or do we want, an alternate approach? And so just kind of throwing it out there.
Well, I mean, I would say, as I agree, we can't know the will of the voters necessarily. However, the voters have always been very supportive of new contracts. And I mean, I know, for the teachers' contracts, they've tried to close that gap with the teachers. I know from other departments in the past, when new contracts come up and people say, we're underpaying them, that's why this is so expensive, we're trying to close that gap, the voters support it. So, I mean, I'm not sure I would have gone with 60%, and this is where we do get in this gray area, where does governance begin and our job to create a budget stop? And so personally, I'm not sure I would have gone with 60%. I think right now I would have aimed for 50% and be
Elizabeth,
more
just to-
guaranteed of getting it.
Sorry, just to clarify, it was the 60th percentile, not 60%.
Sorry, 60th
No, it's okay.
percentile. But getting them, it's a good maybe long-term goal, but maybe I would have set a short-term goal, as we at least want to get you guys at the average for the state.
Was there discussion from the select board about kind of a staggered approach based on what the income of the employee was to begin with? So the ones that were paid higher had a smaller percent increase
Yes,
than the ones?
they were different across the
So
board,
they were-
depending on
so-
the position.
Okay, so I kind of want to look into that a little more, but it's not something we can get tonight. But something interesting. Brian?
Thank you, Chair. Can I go back to I think maybe I didn't phrase it well enough. I wanted to get the committee's feedback on getting a current, active, regular staff report from the town. And I think, to me, I don't want to go as a private citizen to file a 91A, because again, this is all public information, it should be transparent, it should be visible. I'd love to see that in regards to the position and their wages across all departments when it comes to employees in the town. Now, I have it for the school, and it's very enlightening in regards to how our taxpayers are being funded when it comes to payroll. So to me, I think it's a very important piece of data point as we further deliberate and discuss. Because to me, line by line is great, but having the details, the granular details is very important. Of course, there's no PII information, but it goes by position and their wages across departments. I think it's very important to have that.
Danielle and Derek, is this something that you can provide easily?
So I've seen the school report that Brian shared with us. That was from a prior year.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has more current information, but it was from a prior year. The way the school had it formatted was for each position, they had wages, FICA, Medi, New Hampshire retirement kind of out for each position. In our budget detail, we budget wages for each position in the particular line. So with very limited effort of town staff, we can provide the budget detail that has the positions, although Medicare and FICA will be in a different line, and we'd have to almost give you a cheat sheet. We don't have a spreadsheet created that does what the school had provided.
I mean, you can calculate Medicare and FICA after. I think Brian was mainly looking at wages, right?
Yeah, so the department, the position, and the wages, and all those within those departments.
So we have that budget detailed entered into our budget module. And
Okay,
we
so
can
that's
get,
something that you can easily provide to the committee.
if the committee asks for that detail, yes.
Okay. Who else? Laura?
I'm confused about how exactly this helps us make a decision, because like with the school, unless I'm misunderstanding how it works, say we tell the library, just because I'm looking at Diane, say we say, oh, we don't think you need insert employee here. Well, we can tell them that, but if they're like, no, we 100% need that employee, but if you're making us cut that, we're just going to have to cut it from somewhere else because you are incorrect. We know what we need. Isn't that how that works? I'm asking somebody.
Yes.
So I think, like, hypothetically speaking, right, like to use the Parks and Rec, because they're in front of us, right?
Right.
And it's actually kind of nice, because like, on that page 34 and on 35, like 35 has our lovely little organizational flow chart, right? It is beautiful. Look at Rick, right there. That's you. I labeled it. There's 4 full-time people. We know how much full-time wages are. We can just take that number and divide it by 4 and get roughly how much each person makes. Now, I'm going to assume that the grounds and program assistant does make slightly less than the director, right? Just based off of roles. But if, I think like to Laura's point, like if we say to them, oh, like I want you to cut $69,000, like a quarter of that full-time wages, they could just say, okay, well, we're going to take that from pool operations and transfer it back into full-time wages, and now they have 4 people still.
So it doesn't accomplish necessarily like to the detail that you'd be asking.
Like,
And I want to make
can't-
sure that's a correct
We can't say
way
like,
that
oh,
this-
there's no more grounds and program assistant.
Right.
Let him respond.
Yeah.
Well, I think for me, I can't answer that question until I get the data.
No, you could though, because it's more of I just want to make sure when we say cut such and such an amount, we can't say exactly from here, because these are bottom lines. So if we say, Rick, you got to cut the money that you'd use to pay one full-time employee, he can be like, okay, well, it's not gonna be, I'm not getting rid of one of my guys, so I'm gonna cut it from a different line. I wanna make sure I am working under the correct assumption.
You are.
Okay, so that, Brian, I think answered your question. Because even if you say, oh, we have overlap of, you think you see overlap in some positions, you want to cut one of them, that doesn't mean they have to cut one of them at all, if they deem that position necessary. You know, see what I'm saying?
Yeah, in a roundabout way, that's correct. And it's not going out to a certain person. There could be a chance where we can actually operationalize or find efficiencies where we actually can help. And I can't really comment fully until I actually see that level of detail. I can't.
Okay.
So.
Elizabeth, go ahead.
Okay, so I agree with you, and I personally would not be in favor of cutting positions when department heads tell us that they need people. However, any information that members of this committee want, I want them to have. Because I want to have the discussion here, not on Facebook.
No,
And if there's any question in anybody's minds about whether these positions are needed, talk about it here. And let's get it out in the open, so that it's not some rear guard campaign on some wackadoo on Facebook who doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. Let's talk about it. If Brian's got a question, let's talk about it. And see what we, get him the information, and let's get it out there.
I agree. I think we just need to be also realistic and transparent about what we actually can and can't do. So if we have that information and we say, okay, this position for whatever department makes this amount of money, we think that's unnecessary. We want to help you guys by telling you it's unnecessary, so we're going to cut that, and you don't cut it. We still have to be transparent about the fact that you are, as the departments, are 100% in your own right to not cut that position that we have suggested, or that amount. That's what I want to also be clear, because I agree about the info. Everyone, request all the info, get it all out there, let's say it out loud while we're doing this, right? But also, let's remember the actuality of what happens in the end.
Okay. Anybody else? Brian?
Well, thank you, Chair. And please tell me if this is an inappropriate or an excessive request. Because I think it isn't. I think it's important for us to have that additional visibility, and as well as our community. And again, it's all public information. It should be out there for people to digest. And for us, I think it does help in our deliberation and discussion to see that level of detail.
Jack, and then I'll go Olivia, sorry.
So if we do that and I'm not arguing about seeing the information, I think it's all out there. If you care to find it, you could locate it. Even a Luddite like me can search it out on the web. But when you find out that the IT department is understaffed in the town and the IT department is understaffed in the school, are you gonna petition to put $1 million in the budget to straighten that out? That's the question.
Okay. Olivia?
I guess my question is, I think it is important for us to have this conversation here and everything, but I guess my question is, what is the plan to use this information for?
Right.
So we get the information, we talk about it, we say, okay, this is my concern for this amount that this department position's being paid, but what is your plan after that? Is it used, where, like what Laura was saying, we can recommend to cut $70,000, but we can't say this is the position that needs to be cut. We don't have that kind of oversight. So I guess that's where I'm confused, and I don't have a lot of experience with that aspect of it. I understand that we can look at the amounts and what it is and that it's ours to look at, but I don't get what people want to do with it.
Okay, to help get the conversation moving, is this something where you need a motion from the budget committee? Because I don't think there's any disagreement that people should have access to all the information they need to make a decision. Is this something that you would need a motion from the budget committee to provide?
Respectfully, I would request for information to come from the committee as a whole rather than individual members. We are currently, unlike the school, we're at the end of our year. We are doing end-of-year encumbrances. insurance signups for all employees. We are extremely busy, and we have individuals out on medical leave right now in that department. So we can provide the information. My preference is it comes from the committee rather than individuals on the committee.
Okay. Brian?
I'd like to make a motion for the Budget Committee to request of the town current active regular staff across all departments when it comes to the position and wages.
Not corresponding benefits, just position and wages.
Correct.
Second.
Second by Elizabeth.
Can we clarify what you mean by regular staff?
All current active.
Is it seasonal or not seasonal?
Full-time, part-time, seasonal?
Full-time, part-time.
Temp.
That's up to debate. I think I want more regular, like more like full-time FTEs, but if we have a lot of seasonal, then I don't think that's a huge additional effort to get that as well.
Right.
Okay, so,
I think Derek can help you out with the language, actually, in some ways, because he was saying this literally exists within the, am I correct when I'm saying, like, if I'm looking at regular wages, part-time, regular wages, full-time, you're saying that line is built out by the positions?
For full-time, definitely.
Okay.
Some of the part-times, it's not as built out. So there's,
So regardless of whether they're filled right now, the budget for them, the proposed budget.
we put in a position and mark it as a vacant position.
Yes. So we don't care, what I'm trying to say for Brian's sake is, it doesn't matter to me, if I'm trying to get the best information, it doesn't matter to me what, I want to see if it's vacant or filled right now, but I just want to see, okay, what builds this budget? I'm just,
Correct.
all we're really asking for is just more detail.
Breakout in the
For these
full-time.
budget
Breakdown.
lines, because they happen to be our biggest budget lines.
Correct.
So in that sense, I don't see why that's a crazy ask.
yeah, are you okay just doing full-time?
Yeah.
All right, so full-time, regular wages, position, wages, no need for benefits. So that's the motion, right?
Yes.
Motion by Brian, second by Elizabeth. Any
Yes.
more discussion on this? All right. All those in favor of Brian's motion, raise your hand. Those opposed? Abstentions? Jack Carbonell, Laura Stevens abstains. So that was, we have a full committee today, right? 1302. All right, so that passes. Thank you for providing that.
Can I ask a line about a question about the actual Parks and Rec?
So we're back on Parks and Rec. So with that being said, I would like to make a motion to drop a part-time line down with corresponding benefits to the amount that Director Wilhelmy suggested.
106,729.
I have it, 106,729.
$9,000.
The second by Frank. And that's corresponding benefit wages too, so we'll get that detail out.
I'll calculate it in a second.
Okay. So it's 9,000 and we'll probably see change after that with benefit. Any discussion on that? Frank?
So, am I correct in assuming that number is going to affect, obviously, the FICA, the Medicare, and the retirement lines as?
Not retirement.
Not retirement, just the FICA
FICA and
and the
Medicare.
Medicare?
Yep.
Okay.
Who was the second?
Frank? Smith?
I have a question more for Elizabeth. So when you.
Does this have to do with the motion that I made?
Not particularly. no, I
Okay, so
can
let's
hold
get
it.
through this and then we'll
I
keep
can hold
going.
it.
Any discussion on this particular motion? Peter?
If we make this cut to the amount that our director is, I'm trying to be real, I just want to be like, hey, Rick.
Rick, just
I
call me
know,
Rick.
no, I get
Please,
that.
you're good.
But I'm like, Director Rick, I want to give you
No,
your due
Rick's
respect
good.
for your job.
You're Peter, I'm Rick. Hello, let's rock and
So
roll.
anyway, Rick was really kind, he did that. Frankly, I was actually potentially going to ask to cut more. If we cut now, I just want to clarify, we can ask, we can motion 2 weeks from
Yes.
now and be like,
Yep.
okay, let's cut
Yep,
more.
budget's not,
All right.
I mean, budget's in our hands for a while, so.
Perfect, I just want to make sure we're clear on that, so we go with this, and then if we realize we got to push it a little
Yep.
further. Okay.
All right. Any more discussion on it? All right, all those in favor of my motion, raise your hand. Those opposed? Abstentions? Jack Carbonell abstains, so it passes 14. Did you vote, Kelly? 14 to 0 to 1. All right, we're on the Parks and Rec budget.
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Pool operation. Can we talk about that line for a minute? So you've got some money encumbered.
It's already paid.
Okay, so in 2023, it was 19,000, but that was for 2 pools, because Roy Park was still open. Now, 2024 was just 1 pool operation. That pool line does not include any wages, because your lifeguards are up in their,
That's basically all chemicals, umbrellas, repair of umbrellas, repair of lines, suction lines, return lines, replacement of filters, all that is incorporated in that dollar amount.
so you actually went over your budget this year.
Yes, I did.
You're up to 22,000.
Absolutely.
For 1 pool, whereas the
And the
year before, we
reason-
were
wanna know
paying
the reason?
19,000 for 2 pools.
You want to know the reason?
Yes, I'd love to know the reason.
Excellent, will do. Okay, so we actually had one of the filters die out on us. So we bought a new filter, $3,500, not budgeted. And then the whole diving board stand, pedestal, and all that was all rotted. And it's really, you couldn't run it another season. So we bought another one this year. And then that way there, we're all set for next year. So next year, your budget for the pool is going to be
Less.
16,136.
Okay. So it's
So
still
you're
not
saving about
half.
you can't, you're saving, what you're really saving is in chlorine and chemicals.
Okay. So this is the same kind of question we almost had with the police department. How much money do you put in something that you know is not going to last very long?
I guess you keep going because everybody said no about the pool, so you go until the thing dies, I guess. I don't know. What's the rational reason on that?
I don't know. I mean, because it would have a huge impact on the summer camps, right? It would
Correct.
basically sink your summer camp program.
Correct.
Which everybody loves. But I guess at the same time, it's also a lot of money. I mean, we're putting in a lot of money. And my impression, is this correct, that because that pool is old and has some really serious issues, every year it's costing us more and more to run?
It's not costing us more and more. It's just there.
Okay.
It's just there.
It's costing us more to run. Would a new pool be cheaper to run?
I would say, yeah.
Okay.
But, I mean, the bottom line is you're going to have chemical expenses no matter what. I mean, your chemical expenses are going to probably be, I bet you're right around $9,000
Okay.
to run a pool, okay? And then your extraneous dollar amount after that is for your ancillary if something goes wrong. I mean, we might spend, like I said, $3,500 for the pump. If you think that's a lot of money for what we're all doing, maybe it is a lot of money. But now that pump will get us another 5 years. I don't know about the liner, if that's gonna last, whatever. There's so many crystal balls within that, I don't know. But if you look at it and you're spending $16,000, $17,000 to run that pool, I don't know, I guess you guys decide if that's too much or not. I think for the program, is what the program offers, what the community is getting out of it, that's pretty cheap. That's pretty darn cheap. But, you know what, I don't know. You guys are in a different world.
Okay. That's my question.
Danielle?
And $17,000 on a tax, what's that, a penny?
No, David.
Half a cent?
Probably 3/4 of a penny.
3/4 of a penny, and we can go swimming. And be safe by lifeguards, not be in a lake. You know, yeah, we can go to the lake, absolutely. But, you know, here you got lifeguards.
Okay.
Go in the
Danielle.
river, Merrimack. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Should I ask a question about the pool? On the wages, it was 9,000 in wages equated to 558 in FICA and 130 in Medicare.
Can you say that one more time, please, Danielle?
$558 in FICA and $130 in Medicare.
Every
With
dollar
that-
counts.
With that 9,000.
All right, other discussions, Laura?
This is related-ish.
To the Parks and Rec budget?
Yes, yeah. I know we talked about it, and I think because the conversation just kind of went around and around, I don't remember where we landed last time, when several of us were kind of like, why don't you up the cost of summer camp? and it was unclear if, like, I can casually say that to Rick, and he can take that as he wants to, or not at all.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. But I do keep thinking that, so I did just want to throw that out there. I still trust you and your people to do what you feel is right. But I know we just talked around about that, and I couldn't remember where it all landed, so I just wanted to mention it.
I'm gonna let Kelly respond.
I'm just gonna say in that vein, I know we've been talking a lot about revenues, but specifically with fees, I would just ask that you relay that to the Parks and Rec commissioners, as they're the governing body that help Rick make those decisions. And then they come to the select board. So just please make sure you're addressing the appropriate
And that's
committee for
why I
that.
asked, yeah.
But, I mean, do that, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Elizabeth?
I think in general, I mean, I didn't want to keep harping on poor Rick, because he had to go first, and he shouldn't, like, be the poster boy for all this stuff, but I mean, I think you're right, we have talked about this, and I, at some point, I think we need to make a motion as a committee that we request that all town departments revisit their fee structures, and look at these again. We don't have to do it now, we can do it later when we get through it, but it seems like to me that that is a big area where we have been lagging behind. It also gives you an opportunity to maybe satisfy some of those people who do want more and are willing to pay more for it. If you have a fee structure that allows them to, whatever, they want their kids to go to summer camp and they want it to be, they want the new pool, they can pay for the new pool. I mean, that's too much money, but it does allow you more flexibility to maybe address the people who do want more and are willing to pay for it.
Can I ask a clarifying
Okay.
to Kelly? So Kelly, is it, if that's something we kind of did discuss as a committee and sort of agree upon, what's procedurally do we go about, like, contacting the correct people?
Well, we can instruct,
Can
so,
I intervene? May I intervene?
go ahead.
Is that appropriate?
I don't know, I have no idea.
I mean,
Sure.
it's all
I
you
don't know
have
what
to
you're
do
gonna say,
is
so-
contact us, contact me, and I can put you on the agenda to come to one of the commissioners' meetings and talk about what you want to talk about. That's always an open opportunity. So more than welcome if you want to call the department, talk to me, and then we can get you on an agenda.
I guess trying to be more formal about it,
Right.
because
I don't wanna speak
there's
for
some
myself.
members of
No,
the
no.
committee that go to public comment to different areas, and I just want to make sure that it's coming from the committee, not
Right.
specific members.
Oh, okay.
That's why
Oh,
it's
That's,
different.
that's the only thing,
Oh.
like, we know we can go to those meetings and.
Okay, I was just confused. I'm like.
Yeah, no, I
Come on
just
and
don't.
call me.
I wouldn't want to
Please.
speak just as me, if, as a budget committee, this was something we wanted to move forward with. I wanted to make sure it was appropriately handled.
Yeah, I mean, my recommendation would be that you would vote, write a letter, have it signed, and then have the chair or designee reach out to those committees on behalf of.
Okay.
But
Okay. All right, are we good with this part? All right, Peter, go ahead.
Rick, I was just going to ask, just one line up from the parks operations. I can't remember if you discussed this before, but your year-to-dates for park operations are significantly lower than your budget. I don't see any encumbrances. Do you remember what that was all about, like why that's a bit lower than anticipated this year?
There was actually a decrease in fertilizer cost, a couple little things like that. We actually budgeted for a higher amount of, sounds stupid, but toilet usage, in the different areas in the parks, but we cut that down. So we will not spend that full amount, absolutely. We will probably end up spending year-end about 30, what is it? About 30,000 is what we'll end up spending. If you want to make that 39,603, you go right ahead.
Right, it is 39,603.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Great job.
And it's level funded, look at that.
Wow.
It's level funded.
Thank you, Rick.
Were you looking to make a reduction there?
I might be. I'm personally not, I wasn't actually looking to do any reductions yet. I'm just
Okay.
making my notes.
All right.
I'll just tell you, I think 39,603 is a good number. yes, it's higher than what we're at right now, but that's a safe number for influx of cost.
Yeah.
You want to put it at 30, then we're going to be chasing our tail.
Samantha?
Elizabeth, what was the overall increase because you broke it down by department, right? What the
Yeah.
increases for everybody?
Yeah, what was Parks and Recs?
Yeah. I just want to make sure that I'm calculating the same number that you are.
I had a 10% increase.
Okay.
for Parks and Rec.
Okay. So for anybody who's keeping track, it's at 8.5 increase right now.
Yeah, you're about 8, yep.
Okay. Okay. Can we talk about his CIP items as well?
Yeah, I kind of, if we can lower that even to 35, the parks operation, I'm thinking like another,
That's not even going to be a 0.5%.
well, it's a 0.5%.
All right, make it 35. Go right ahead.
It's the number I had.
You had 35? Yeah. Okay, ESP over
Whatever.
here. Do you want to do that, Peter, or you want me to?
Sure. Can I motion to move our parks operation line from 39,603 down to 35,000.
Is there a second? Second by Brian?
Yeah, sure.
Discussion on that? Anybody? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of Peter's motion, raise your hand. Those opposed? Abstentions? Jack Carbone abstains, it's 14-0-1. So that motion passes. All right, CIP. Elizabeth?
Oh, I'm still looking at CIP. I mean, I know
Okay.
you've got the tennis courts. What else do you have in CIP?
That's it.
That's it? Has the school come back to you with what they're gonna kick in?
No, they haven't. No, I have not heard back on that yet, no.
How much, is there any way to make an estimate of how much percentage-wise the school uses it versus town?
You can just do it by season, I guess. I mean, you look at the tennis season, the high school tennis season. It's basically, April till June? So 2 months, about 2.5 months maybe, if that. Every day, 3:30 till dusk, Monday through Friday.
Okay. Okay.
Probably 10%, 5%.
Really? You don't think it's
Not-
more than that?
Nah, it's not that much.
You only get half a year out of those anyways, right? I mean-
Well, you open them up, you open them up in April, depending on snow, but usually April. We just closed it down on Thanksgiving, so April,
7
May,
months.
June, July, August,
Yeah,
September,
7.
October. 7 months?
7 months?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Peter?
Pickleball was a big part of that improvement. How many months out of the year is that typically being run?
7 months.
Thank you. Do you have any idea, who tends to be using that for pickleball? I don't get to do it.
A lot
I
of
want
people.
And Rick, I really.
I have no idea if you're going down the road, are they residents or not? I have no idea. There's a lot of wonderful humans having a wonderful time of getting great exercise on a very valuable thing.
I am going down that road, and I am very happy that everyone is getting great exercise. I don't get excited about having to spend my tax dollars on someone else enjoying my facilities from another town who may or may not have any need. So in that sense, yes.
Okay.
I am asking that question.
No problem. I can't tell you. I have no idea.
So I actually am a pickleball player.
How many people,
and I
how
gotta
many
tell you-
people with their
Pickleball
children?
is very
How many
trendy.
people with their children have gone to other playgrounds in other communities?
Well, I
How
was
many
just gonna
people have
say,
done
like,
that?
we
I've
play
done
at
that.
Parks and Rec.
How many people have done that?
But we also play at Rock Rimmon, so we're jumping to the line into Manchester, because they actually
Yeah.
have pickleball courts at Rock Rimmon. And it is actually very crowded, yeah. People are waiting for courts usually.
I get that. I just want to make sure it's clear if we are paying for something that someone else is using, and we are not funding, the issue that I have is not that. The issue that I have is that we've been not underfunding things that we do use as a community, right? So my concern is not so much, why should we pay for pickleball? But it's not about paying for pickleball, it's about paying for pickleball over paying for something else, right? to be frank, I'm not trying to be a jerk.
No, and
okay?
I'm
If we were
sorry
dealing,
for
if
coming off
if
that
the state of New Hampshire was paying its damn fair share, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Why are you pointing at me?
I'm not.
You're the state. You didn't know that.
Only
Why do you feel so guilty? No,
Jack-
I'm serious.
No, I
I
understand.
wouldn't be doing that, but we have to. Unfortunately, we gotta talk about pickleball versus the people in our town. So, I'm sorry, we're not trying to be jerks.
I'm not taking it in any bad way, I'm just, I love that when we always go to are they residents? And I think to myself as a human, how many times have I gone to other communities and used other parks? I go to the state of Maine, I go and recreate in the state of Maine and enjoy, and I go to some park in the middle of Ellsworth. Thank you for having the park. You know, I mean, I don't know, I mean, there's a community value. And that's the piece that I'm having a problem with, I think, internally. I get what you're saying.
argument, by the way.
get
I
what
do
you're saying.
appreciate your argument.
I
It's a solid
do,
one.
I appreciate what you're saying, you know, our tax, I get it. But then there's this community aspect of what we do in our lives. And what do we do to get out and socialize? Where are those places? Where is the capability to do that? And are some of those places facilities and resources? Yes, they are. Okay. Who has to be the steward of those? Okay, somebody has to be the steward of those. And you take that on. That's part of a community. If you get rid of all that, what the heck do you have as a community? Facebook? I don't know. I mean, what's the new community? And that's the piece that I guess I'm having a hard time with. Sorry.
All right, thank you, Rick. Jack, do you have something to add?
I want to jump on that train right there, but unless you've been here as long as me, why did you come here? You came here because of those services, you came here because of those amenities, you came here because of those things. But on a lighter note, we did banter about it in the school board last night, not banter. We discussed the investment in the tennis court, which I think is well used and is a great thing to have in town. And if pickleball's part of that, I know plenty of people who play pickleball, I think we should invest in that also. And we figured that our contribution would probably be around $15,000. Not set in stone, wasn't voted on last night, but it also we get asked in the middle, our budget's already gone through. When we were asked and thought that the courts would be done next year, not in this budget year, the following budget year, so it wasn't put in our budget.
And that's
But that will still find the way to make our contribution.
Okay, Laura?
Just from a logical standpoint, isn't the stipulation on that entire park anyway that anyone's allowed to use it? I don't know who I'm looking at for that.
Yeah,
If you
it's a
look
public-
at
it's a public facility.
Barnard Park, Roy Park, both of those parks, pools, the pavilions, tennis courts, for as much, the tennis courts, that whole area, were all used, federal grants were put in on that. So in your federal grants, it is open to everybody. If you want to charge a fee, you charge a fee to everybody. If you charge a fee, your fee for that non-resident can't be over a certain threshold. You know, you can't gouge them. You know what I mean? There's certain parameters that you have to follow. So with that being said, that's a good point. So if you do go and try and find grants, which are very long and daunting to get through, if you go with the federal grant, there's going to be stipulations that come with it.
Can I just do it? Also, to your point about community, personally, that's what I am concerned about, is we're going to lose our sense of community. I know a lot of people I've talked to, kind of across the board, want that sense of community here and in their lives. And I think that is another thing we need to keep in mind as we're going through these, is community is a need, in my opinion and in lots of people's opinions. I know we talk about need, we talk about fire, we talk about police. Those seem to jump out. But you move to a place and you build a family and you stay and you have your friends and your community. And like Rick said, if those things where you're allowed to have that go away, then what do you have there? I just
Danielle,
thought
go
that was a
ahead.
good point.
Just as a reminder to the committee, because I know you guys are looking at the appropriations, in the revenue section, you have $225,000 as offsetting revenue against the $470,000 appropriation. Part of that is from the Parks and Rec revolving fund, as well as $75,000 committed from impact fees. The impact fees can only be used on the expansion portion, which would be the pickleball portion. It's not 100% coverage of that pickleball expansion, which Rick can speak to, but I just wanted to remind the committee that you are looking at almost a 50% match or 50% reduction in the tax effort needed for that project.
So I have a question about, when do those impact fees expire?
They will be expiring, some of them next year. Each, it's combined of the 75,000. They all have different expiration dates because part of that 75,000 might be $500,
Right.
another part's 1,000. So they all have different dates. We are watching them closely and we are encouraging Rick to utilize those funds
Okay.
in '26 because some will be expiring.
Okay.
So, Rick, can you talk to me a little bit about, I know you have this one quote, but can you talk to me about what would the cost of overlaying the tennis court and repainting the tennis court instead of a total reclamation of the court?
Well,
And adding the pickleball?
I
'Cause
asked
feel like
that question
Yeah.
about overlaying, and two people that I spoke to said we wouldn't even come and do it. Because it
Okay.
doesn't make any sense. Because it will just come back a year later. You have a crack that's existing, the crack goes down into the ground,
Yep.
the crack has already established itself. It needs to be removed and then put down correctly.
Okay,
Lipstick on a pig if you do it that way.
okay, thank you. All right, does anybody have any other questions for Rick? All right. Thank you.
I gave you all I got.
Thank you.
All right, we're one page through the budget, so I'm going to take a 5-minute break. We'll well, just me, the other committee can, but we'll reconvene around 7:35.
I know.
7:36. I'm going to welcome Diane Hathaway here from the Goffstown Public Library. For the committee's reference, we're looking at page 15. So similar to Parks and Rec, I believe it's a one-pager. Diane, you don't have anything in CIP, right? It's all,
Yeah, we have window restoration.
that's
in
right,
CIP.
okay. Okay, so we'll look at the budget, then talk CIP after that. So I'm going to kick it off. Have we looked at the staffing levels of the Goffstown Public Library compared to other libraries of similar size, and where do we fit on that spectrum?
I have not done a study of staffing as far as a comparison. We're one of the few public libraries that has 3 stories, though. So that impacts our staffing levels because every floor has to be staffed.
That's a requirement? I didn't even know that.
It's a requirement for our Library Board of Trustees for safety purposes that every floor has a staff member on it at all
Okay.
times, yeah. Safety and customer service, which is really big for us. We pride ourselves on our customer service.
Richard?
I think the question that Joe was getting at is if that was library policy or law.
It's not law.
Right.
It's policy of the library board. It's not even policy. Their rule of thumb is there should be 4 people in the building and for every hour that we're open.
Laura?
I want to say that's pretty standard as far as at least 1 staff member per floor because of the exact reasons. So it's sort of across the board, you will see that.
Like, how many staff does, like, a town of Salem have full-time?
Oh, well,
I mean,
it's
you're,
Lillian, but our library's giant, so there's no comparison.
I'm just kind of, I have no idea, so when we say 12, I'm like, what do we mean by that?
Like,
So-
we have more than double that.
Okay.
But as far as just like 1 staff on this, 1 staff on this floor.
Yeah.
That is standard.
Hello. Diane, this year, do you see your staff taking advantage of tuition reimbursement? I see,
No.
you actually zeroed it out. Is that why?
We don't fund it unless there's a request, and there were
Oh,
no
okay.
requests.
All right,
so.
awesome. Allison?
I don't know if maybe we already talked about this, but what's the facility maintenance increase to 55? Is there something specific in there that we're working on fixing?
$20,000 was added for the drainage repair in our parking lot.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
I knew we had talked about it and I couldn't remember. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Elizabeth?
So I see that books and publications are pretty dramatically underspent this year.
Well, they won't be by the time we finish the year. We have not paid for all our digital subscriptions yet.
Okay.
Hoopla is the last bill that I pay, which is going to be $15,000 over a couple of different lines. So,
Okay.
yeah, no, I don't, that's misleading right now because we do wait toward the end of the year for our digital.
Okay, and Hoopla gets the usage to justify that?
We could spend twice what we spend on Hoopla now and still need more money.
Oh, so Hoopla's not a flat fee, it's a
No,
by
it's not a
usage
flat
fee?
fee, it's by usage.
So basically, you are actually paying for what you use. and not-
Exactly. And
Okay.
it's capped at $1,000 a month. And we have complaints constantly from the public that we're not funding it enough.
Okay, so we set that cap based on what
We
we can
set that
afford.
cap, yes.
Okay. I seem to remember that cap is relatively new. Wasn't it
Yes.
as a result of the default budget?
It
That this
is
was one of the
because we
changes?
have to live within our budget and I needed to make sure that the 2025 request was as conservative as I could make it. So we had to cap it.
So that's a service that changed as a result of the default budget?
Yes.
And you're carrying it forward in the same, you're level funding it basically for the coming year?
Exactly. Depending on what I can send in at the end of this year, I may be able to increase that cap, but I'm not hopeful.
Okay.
Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this should not be a surprise to anyone, but I'd like to make a motion to eliminate Object Code 44100, professional dues. And I believe in those dues, it's the American Library Association as well as New Hampshire Library Trustees Association. So I want to strike those dues for organizations that are registered lobbyists or engage in legislative advocacy.
Is there a second on that? I'll second it.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
Those aren't the only two organizations that are funded in that line, so if you zero out that line, you'll be removing every professional organization. It'll remove our dues for our local library co-op. It'll mean that we cannot network with our colleagues, which I think is a tragedy.
Yeah, so
So to get the exact dollar amounts, we got this sent to the committee. American Library Association, $790, and New Hampshire Trustees Association is $330. So do you still want to zero the line out, or would you consider those?
No, and
guess I'm
I-
wondering-
my motion still stands. I had the number incorrectly. I thought that ALA was 2,000 by itself, so I apologize. So what is the new number?
It was in an email that you received.
790 plus
So I
330.
provided that.
1120.
So I'll refine my motion to reduce the line item from 2,000 to 1120.
No, you reduce it 1,100.
Sorry, reduce it down to 1120.
No.
No. 880.
Thank you, Israel.
Yes.
Okay, and that motion's been seconded.
So I'd like to know more about what those organizations do.
So the American Library Association is our national professional organization for librarians and libraries. It is a nonpartisan organization. It has no governing authority over public libraries. It's information and best practices for us. It serves all demographics and really supports accessibility of public libraries to an entire community. It's governed by a council and an executive board that's elected by the membership. It supports First Amendment rights for every person. There's a ton of different things, but it is a membership organization. They provide education, conferences, resources, assistance for policy writing, things like that.
about
Similar
the
to
other
what
one?
other professional organizations
What about the New
do.
Hampshire one?
The New Hampshire Library Trustees Association is a membership group for library trustees, so for our elected board members. And their members, and they get the same thing. It's mostly educational for them. It really helps them to learn law. They learn right-to-know law. They learn what library laws, what their jobs are for a public library.
Okay. So can I just follow up on this? So is your guys' objection is the fact that those organizations are registered lobbyists?
That's my motion. I haven't talked about my argument, but yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. You should have been allowed to do that first. I apologize for jumping the gun.
That's okay.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, and I want to read my argument because I want to make sure I get my thoughts correctly. And I think it ties to more of the principle behind it. So my argument is the use of taxpayer funds to support organizations involved in lobbying activities raises concerns about legality and appropriateness. Taxpayer dollars are intended for public purposes, not for lobbying or advocacy that may advance the interests of specific professional groups or organizations. This practice also Also risks compromising governmental neutrality. Public entities are expected to remain impartial on contentious legislative matters, and funding lobbying organizations could undermine public trust in their objectivity. Taxpayers should not bear the cost of supporting activities that may conflict with their interests. So that's my argument. It's more the principle behind it. And no one can tell me that these organizations have impartiality and neutrality.
Discussion from members of the committee. Elizabeth?
I mean, I see your point. It's almost impossible to defend lobbyists with a straight face. I mean, they just have such, I don't know. But at the same time, I mean, I guess it really depends on the organization. I mean, I know that some of these groups that lobby, their lobbying comes down to providing information to elected officials who can't be expected to know everything about everything. So a lot of times they do turn to groups to get information. I think also, I mean, I know at the state level, at least, a lot of lobbyists are there to, voice an opinion, not to cut a backroom deal and slip money to somebody and take them out to dinner to convince a legislator to vote for them. I mean, I don't know, I feel a little uncomfortable with how broad this is and how all-encompassing it is, when I think a lot of these groups do provide, I also look at this, I mean, the ALA, do they lobby? How much of their activities is spent on lobbying versus all the other things they do? Is this something where we could, I don't know, mention to the ALA, well, my town is not comfortable with this. Public funds are being used, maybe you guys shouldn't be lobbying. I don't know, it seems like we're taking a chainsaw to something that needs a scalpel. So, I mean, I agree with that individual point, it's too broad for me, I think, to go along with it, if that makes sense.
Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and I respect that argument. I guess my thought is, how do you actually further dissect that? You really can't, because I don't know. I said before, I said some of these organizations, I do think they provide value to our community, but again, to expect the public, using public funds to support a lobbyist organization where they may not have alignment on, and there's no interest, I think it's an inappropriateness of the use of public monies in general, regardless if they add value or not. So that's my argument. It's like, if someone wanted to personally fund this, so be it, but it shouldn't be on the public to fund it. Because you get into a point, it's very sticky. And to me, it's like, if they can't be neutral, then we shouldn't fund it with public dollars.
Olivia?
Diane, how many of the newer trustees utilize the trustee organization that we were just, I'm sorry, I forget what the name was, that we were just discussing, not the ALA, but the
It's
other
the
one?
New Hampshire Library Trustees Association. Every member of the board and every alternate is given a membership.
Okay, do you know whether they use them?
I can't tell you. I mean, I know whether they would have attended the conference that I had to pay for, but so much of the training is for free.
Okay.
I don't have a sense of
Are
who's
there,
attended what.
just one other, are there other training opportunities for them? So say someone got elected recently, I know we have like an opportunity to go and learn and become more familiar with the way things work. Is this the sole way that the trustees would? Is
That's
through
the
that
sole way
membership?
they're educated in public library
Right, that's what I meant,
representation.
like I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Brian?
Just one more thing. I think in my cursory look, because I was really curious if other municipalities have supported this, where they have a prohibition about the use of public funds for these associations that do lobby. I couldn't find anything in New Hampshire, but there are other states that do have communities that prohibit it. So it is unlawful for certain municipalities. So there is a precedent behind it. And I'm just asking for support on this because, again, regardless where you align, I think it's an inappropriate use of public funds if they lobby the state legislature for whatever interest there is. I think it's inappropriate use of our tax dollars.
Laura?
I think the value that this provides far outweighs any lobbying that would be so in conflict with any one community member's personal belief. I mean, for these organizations specifically, and I know because I have a specific knowledge about them, first of all, not all libraries use all the resources, agree with all the policies. Like, it's there as a overarching information, overarching information about everything. And I know in other communities or other states, because they prohibit things, there's other options. Here, there isn't another option, as much as I'm aware, ALA is the one. There's PLA, but that's like across the US, and that's.
And you have to be a member of ALA to be a member of
PLA.
Public Library
Yeah.
Association,
So I don't actually think there's much of a concern that the lobbying is really, has any effect that we should not pay for the resources that it's given. I don't know, I'm not saying this very eloquently, but librarians are not, they're just providing information. You can take it or leave it, and it's true with both of these organizations. And that's why they're important to belong to, because individual communities can take what is of value to them and sit out for anything that's not.
Kelly?
I just wanted to say that, is there specific lobbying that you know of, Brian, that's of concern, or is it just an overarching idea?
It's the principle behind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm assuming ALA operates the same way, but with my experience with New Hampshire Municipal Association, yeah, they're absolutely not neutral. They're advocating for libraries, for towns, for certain things. And your buy-in into that process is dictated in different ways. So I would say, yeah, I agree that they're definitely not neutral, but I think the question is more of our involvement in those practices and what have they lobbied for in the state of New Hampshire, that if it's anything to be concerned about. Because I know from our NHMA legislative wrap-up, we get informed of everything that they're going to the state to talk about. Do you know? Do you have that information, Diane?
I don't.
Okay.
I will say on the state level, there's a bill that comes up every year that would blanket prohibit public funds being spent on lobbying. And I believe Brian's actually called me specifically about it. And I've always been against a blanket prohibition, because I think that these local decisions need to happen. And if we decide on a local board that we don't want to fund this, that's okay. But to tell other towns they can't do it isn't right. So I guess I agree with Brian on principle on the local level. Like, I'll be voting with you to take this money out of the budget. But on the state level, like, each town should have the right to make that decision for themselves. Laura?
Yeah, I think my confusion, because the lobbying was brought up a while ago, and I've been thinking about it ever since, and I'm thinking, okay, what are they lobbying for? Like, specifically these organizations, what are they lobbying for that would be, like, bad? Well, they're lobbying for the existence of libraries, like free speech, sharing of information, open access. I guess I don't see that as a negative enough at all to not have them, not pay for their belonging.
Okay. Allison?
And as we keep kind of pointing out, until it's illegal, they can still use their funds to be part of these organizations regardless of that. I feel like so many of the decisions we're making are trying to change the way the departments run and operate and spend their funds. But that's not really our decision. You can not give them the money, but that doesn't mean they're not going to still be part of that organization when that is Brian's whole reason for bringing it up.
Okay, so we're talking about $1,100. Is there anything else, or should we vote on that? I know, Brian, you're probably not going to stop on the public funds for lobbying, right? So we'll talk about this.
No,
at
this is
some
going to be a
other-
consistent theme, because again, I'm
Right.
staunch
Okay.
about using a public funds. And again, I didn't go into great new detail about how they're lobbying the legislature. I mean, I think you'll get into more philosophical things, and there might be some contention about those things. But I think at the end of the day, there's a precedent behind this, it's a principle behind it, that public funds should not be used in any capacity for lobbying, period. It was pro or against. I think it's inappropriate, and I think it won't see if it's unlawful, but I'm not an attorney or a squire. I think it's unlawful to do that, so.
Peter, and then Elizabeth.
My concern is that this is very granular. Like, I hear that statement on its own, it makes sense. But now I'm like, okay, so what kind of trucks can we buy? Because certain industries are lobbying for certain things, right? And we're not buying the lobbying, but we're buying the truck. And that company has its right to lobby, right? So we're not buying the lobbying from the association, but we are buying the membership. But because they're spending their money in a certain way, like, it starts to remind me of like those college kids that are like, oh man, well, we gotta divest from everything, blah, blah, blah. You're like, cause they gave like $3 to fossil fuels. You're like, do you realize our trust fund is gonna like go anyway? So that's just where it kind of reminds me, is like, it's like, well, where do you go from there? If I heard more of a specific argument of like, yeah, they are doing this, fine, but it just feels a little too granular, that's all.
Brian?
Yeah, just as a follow-up, and I appreciate that too. I think, I haven't done that granular research to see what percentage of their time and their resources go to lobbying. Maybe that information does exist. We can bring it back to the budget committee, or I can. But to me, it's like, then you get into the realm of probably the philosophical aspect of what are they actually doing when they do lobby, and that percentage of their monies, right? So I don't know. To me, so feel like coming back to the principle in this precedent that, again, usually public funds for public purposes should be for public purposes, not so much for lobbying, put it that way. So.
All right, are we trying
The
to,
library not a public purpose? Isn't lobbying for a public, right? Library public, do we all go there?
Well, I think the point is that you can't control what they're lobbying for.
You're using private funds
Can't
for public
control.
purposes.
Public funds for public.
Private funds that public is using, they all come from private people.
But it all becomes public as soon as
Yeah.
you write the check
But who can send us the government?
public
Is the
funds.
is the private citizens.
all right,
to lobby
Elizabeth?
for books.
So if it were a case where an organization was primarily there to lobby, I would support that. I don't think I can vote for this because I think those organizations are providing so many other useful services, and I don't think the lobbying is that big of their piece. I will say this, though, when this is all done with this process, if I would be in favor of the budget committee sending a letter to each of those organizations saying, in our town, there was a serious effort to cut these because of your lobbying activities. And that's a little thing, but enough towns do it, and
Right.
maybe those organizations will listen, because I do understand your principled argument on this. I just don't think I can do it because I think there's too much value out of these memberships.
Okay, so Brian's motion is to reduce line 44-100 professional dues from $2,000 to $880.
Yeah, 880.
So if you're in favor of the motion, please raise your hand now. If you're opposed, Peter Gregorikakis, Olivia Welch-Rodall, Samantha Kearns, you guys are all sitting on the same side. Richard Manzo, Allison DeCesare, Laura Stevens, Elizabeth DeBrule, Kelly Boyer.
I'll abstain.
And then Jack Carbonneau abstains, and Mark Raynaud abstains. So it's 5 to 8 to 2. Motion fails.
I have a question.
Samantha?
Diane, the books and publications.
Yep.
You said that is paying for Hoopla.
Some of it is paying for Hoopla.
Okay.
Yes.
What is the very last line, the electronic subscriptions and contracts? What is the difference between those two things?
The difference is that everything in the last line, 69,200, is digital streaming databases, things like that, all electronic.
Okay.
Hoopla just happens to come out of two different lines because that's the way we can fund it. So
Okay.
it comes out of the book line, even though it's digital materials, and electronic services.
Okay.
So we split it.
And then, I know we had talked about this, and I apologize for asking you again. The 48,450 computers and communications, that's, I mean, that is really like the only increase that you have in here, that like $7,000. What is that again? Is it-
That is the line that funds our hardware, our software, our Office 365 licensing, our security
Is it
system.
physical computers?
Yes, it's a combination of physical hardware and software. And we're the only department that carries our own line for this. Everybody else comes under admin, but we keep our own line. And it's a regular rotation of replacement and things like that.
Diane, you said something that scratched my head a little, like just recently, about the Hoopla thing. Why does the Hoopla subscription come from two different lines? Why don't we just have it come from one line?
It seemed like too big a change to have to explain to the budget committee. So we take money from both places, and it's grown, so we've had to take money from both places. Because even though it's not a physical content, it's still materials, just in a digital content. So that's why it comes out of two. As we've paid more and more, we've taken it out of different lines.
I mean, I'm kind of like sad that you would think that it's too much to explain, that we wouldn't understand the need for something
I
like
didn't
this.
say you wouldn't understand, I said it would be harder to explain the change in the first year.
And I think also, like, as somebody who uses Hoopla and Libby, like the publications part of it is like the ebook. And maybe you could argue like the audiobook, but I know Hoopla also has movies and has music, and I guess that would probably be more on like the streaming side of things. And so I don't know if they itemize their bills in separate ways, and that's, they are two different, they're paid for in like two different ways. But I also get that, like, they seem like they could be one big, because like we just look at it as like, oh, it's the Hoopla app, like it has all the things.
The book and publications line also fully funds Cloud Library, which is one of our platforms for digital materials, so that only comes from.
Okay.
And that's because we've changed our collection, and as we change our collection from print to digital, that's the line that's gonna come out of, so. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Diane, I was going to ask on facility maintenance, is there anything, I don't think I was here when you presented it, so was there anything in particular that was making for that increase in 2025?
That's the drainage in the parking lot.
That is the drainage being lined up there,
The
it's not going in
increases.
CIP, right? Okay.
No,
I'm
it's
sorry, I
below
thought-
the threshold for CIP.
Okay, just double checking.
Yep.
Allison?
I wanted to consider the $4,000 in legal expenses, based on, that being about what was spent last year. And Joe, during Diane's presentation, you made a specific comment whether you thought that would be enough. And with all due respect, you were involved in both of the cases that resulted in that. So I guess, do you have any plans for future litigation that we should up that
So we
number?
can figure this budget out right
That's
now.
completely an unfair question. I don't know why you
Well,
think
but
that's
you-
appropriate to ask that.
Because you brought it up. You said, do you think that will be enough? So what would make you ask her whether 4,000 would be enough when she presented without having some idea of whether 4,000 would be enough or not? That
All
was
depends on what the library
100%
does.
based on
What the
your
library does.
question to her during presentation.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
So then I guess maybe I would like to increase it.
I can tell you that we've spent $6,360 in legal fees this year. That's the updated number.
Okay.
How much?
$6,360.
So it's already lower. It's already higher for last year
Yeah,
than we're budgeting for.
The year-to-date, you'll see at the top of that was as of October
Yeah,
31st.
yeah. So I think we should consider increasing that number to protect the other services that the library offers and not have to take away from some of those to cover additional legal fees.
Can I clarify?
Sure.
Go ahead, Laura.
And there, it's zero up until
Yeah.
then because it was consulting services prior to, am I remembering that correctly?
We never had a legal services line before.
Okay.
So to make things fully transparent, we
Right.
changed, finance added a legal services line, and so we'll be discontinuing the consulting line.
Okay. And I'm trying to remember, but I don't, before, what was in that consulting line for amount, and was it used?
It was $2,000 pretty consistently.
Yep.
It was mostly for legal review of policy, things like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, any other discussions on this? So we can briefly chat about CIP if you'd like. I think one of the discussions Elizabeth raises during the public hearing was regarding looping all of your projects in together in order to qualify for LCHIP and like put it all together in one project. So we're talking like the foundation, the windows, everything all together. Is this something like, would you be amicable to putting it into one project and then us funding it all at once?
I think it's premature. We've had, so the projects that were in question was repointing the exterior of the building to make sure that the brickwork was safe and things like that. We had not planned to do it a year ahead, so I don't have that information fully drafted. So
What about
I
the
don't.
idea of pushing it out, pushing the Windows project out a year?
I presented it the way that the board and I believed that it would be manageable for us in 2 years.
So was that a financial decision, or was that based on the state of the windows?
It was mostly based on the fact that it takes a lot of work, and impacting the building like that means that the building will be closed and not accessible to the public. So our philosophy has always been to just do one major project a year, basically.
Samantha had her hand up and Lauren.
So in just thinking about like the time that I have been on the budget committee, the budget committee, the first year that I was on this, the library came to us and, had plans for a very large project, and that got voted down by the voters. And so then they said, all right, well, we won't do like a really big project, we'll do smaller projects, and we'll, try to get a capital reserve fund, and that got voted down. And so I feel like we're moving, now they have like one project, they've focused on one thing that they know that they need. They've got, like, Diane is so incredibly prepared. Like, I feel like we could ask her, roughly anything about these windows, and she would be able to have that information. So I just feel like to ask again, like, oh, maybe instead of having it be a small project, you make it a big project. Well, it's like, well, we did that, and it got voted down. And so I think having one direct mission, I mean, like, it is, even like before this budget came to us, it was windows and shelves. And now it's like, no, it is just windows, like, just new windows. I think that anyone will tell you that, like, you get new windows, you can save so much on heating and electricity and, all the utilities and all that great stuff too. I think picking one project at a time works really, really well in the library's favor, because then they can do all the research. Nobody can come back to them and say, oh, you didn't look it up. We need real estimates. Like, she has real estimates, At least that's like the feedback we've gotten from voters in the past. Thanks.
And if I may, every year we have tried different methods to maintain our building, repair our building. And every year we hear, no, you should do it like this. This is what we want to see. So then the next year we come back with whatever we've been asked for. And again, we hear, no, we want to see it differently. And honestly, after 25 years, it's getting really old to hear, no, you're not doing it the right way. This is what we want to see. And then every time we jump through those hoops to give you what you want, it's still not what you really want. So it's very frustrating for me because you're wasting my time by asking me to go through all these things when the answer's going to be no. So if that's what this committee wants, then we'll go back to the drawing board and we'll do the work all over again and see what happens next year. But it's very old to have to hear that you want something different yet again when we're trying to give you what you asked for the last time.
Okay, Laura.
Thank you. I agree with you. And directors have too much to do to be redoing the same project every year in a different manner. I actually have a question about the quotes. There were two that you had submitted. One looked like it was an older one, around 20K, that was from like 2023. It was the newer one, I'm guessing, that you were going with?
We hadn't even made a decision yet.
Oh, okay, because I didn't know if the older one was going to be different now that it's...
No, because I had emailed to make sure that I had the right numbers, and
Okay.
he said that those numbers would still be maintained. So
Okay, so it
that's
could
why I
be-
didn't get an updated written document.
Right, so it could be the 33, or it could be around the 20, depending on who you go with, based on, I'm sure, other factors, timing.
And also because there was an additional amount for storm windows, if you
Right.
remember, so.
Yes.
And so those decisions have not been made yet.
Okay.
So.
Okay, Olivia?
So kind of piggybacking off of that with the quotes that we received through the email, in the event that we push this out another year or two, would you expect that those quotes would change, or would those carry through? Probably
I
change,
think
correct?
they will change, and we will, and that's one of the things I will have to do is go back to these
And have them
contractors
come
and
back.
find out what their new pricing will be.
Okay, thank you.
Peter?
Elizabeth, what did I miss about your question? What were you asking specifically? I feel like I didn't fully understand your question.
I was asking, they've got this project, and then CIP, they've got a project next year for 80,000 to do repointing on the building.
Yeah.
So my initial suggestion was that they combine those two projects, because they're both about waterproofing the building and preventing water from getting into the building. That they combine the two and apply for an LCHIP, which is state money. It funds it at 50%. LCHIP grants are really fabulous, but they are a lot of work. And they're very competitive. But it is 50% funding. So it would pay for, now if you combine those two projects and push them out a year, they'd have enough time to apply for the LCHIP funding and maybe get 60,000 of it covered. If they don't get the LCHIP, then they're a year behind, and now they've got these projects backed up and they don't have the funding to go with it. So it's a risk, but it's also a lot of money. So, I mean, I feel a little conflicted here about this. And I do know that LCHIPs, as far as grants go, they are one of the more labor-intensive grants. Federal grants and LCHIP grants are the two that you'll spend $10,000 getting a $5,000 grant.
Can I follow up on that? So Diane, thank you for your argument earlier. One of the things that I hate is wasting your guys' time, because it also wastes our money. So I get that, but I will say somewhat respectfully, like, we're all just trying to figure this out sometimes, you know? So we do this, and if I hear something that sounds like it makes a lot of sense, even if, yeah, we've done 1,000 things back and forth up until now, but it like could really make sense for us as a community, I still want to hear it. So I get how it could be frustrating for you.
I just need to share my frustration.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because it's 25 years worth of this,
Yeah.
so.
So can I just ask you really quickly, based off of Elizabeth's argument, do you think that that's, hate to say go back to the drawing board, do you think that it's possible that could get us a better outcome overall, though?
I don't have the knowledge to know whether that's a better outcome for us or not, and I can't tell you that, yes, let's do that. I have a board I answer to, an elected board. They will have to discuss this. If this is a decision of the budget committee that money is removed, then the board will discuss what their next steps are.
Okay, Laura and then Elizabeth.
Thank you. I think Samantha's right about this one. people said over and over again, just in the time I've been on budget committee, we want to see a specific project, a specific amount, and how we're going to pay for it. They are giving us exactly that today. I say, please let them do it. For the voters' sake, because that's what they keep asking for, is we want to see specifics. One project and get it done with a date. We have it right here.
My suggestion was that LCHIP does come out. I mean, I think it's worth a conversation. I think the library trustees should ask someone from LCHIP to come down and talk about the project and get their feedback. And LCHIP is pretty good about this. I mean, they'll say, yeah, you got a good shot at this, or, you can try, but we're not making any promises. Because if they think you have a good shot, I think it might be worth the risk. That's my, and I know you don't make that decision, Diane, that goes back to your trustees, but I do think it's at least worth a conversation with LCHIP to see the potential feasibility.
Laura?
But didn't you say that it might cost 10 grand to get a 5 grand grant? That
Well,
doesn't
I mean,
seem like a great deal.
that's like an old, I mean, I probably shouldn't have made that quip, but it's an old thing among organizations where you have to do a lot of work. There are some grants where, you write a letter, you send it off, and the next thing you know, you get a check for $100,000 in the mail. But there's other ones. LCHIP requires certain assessments. You have to, it's a pretty long and lengthy application, and you have to make a pretty convincing argument. If you clear each round, you have to go and present your case in front of the LCHIP board. And so it is. And to be honest, though, $120,000 is a small LCHIP grant. Most LCHIP grants are for substantially more money.
I get that. I just wonder if it's worth the taxpayers' money that go to Diane and her staff to spend their time doing that.
But you would hope the trustees would step up and do some of that.
Well, some of it is, it's not always that cut and dry.
My concern with bundling it is that the ticket price ends up being so much more even once it's met, and where the library's hitting such a wall, doing kind of the bare minimum at this point of maintaining their building. I'd be concerned that if the voters saw we now need 60,000, they'd be saying, well, last year you were asking for 20,000. When I'm just throwing the numbers, but whether there's the same amount of money coming at it, I don't see people approving it. And I don't think it's necessarily that people don't support the library. I think it's the concern of these line items. So that would be my concern of bundling. Although financially, I think it does make sense to have it offset by a grant.
Danielle?
Just a note, regardless of the final appropriation amount, the Library Board of Trustees could discuss the opportunity to apply for the grant, and if they were awarded a grant or they decided to move forward with a grant and they were awarded, they could encumber funds from this year into next year if they got that 50% funding for 60,000 or something like that. But that would be a decision that the trustees would have to make once they have a better understanding of what that application process is, what type of timeline would be required for both projects. Like Diane said, all of those are unknowns and hypotheticals, regardless of what appropriation is put forward this time.
I will say that one of the criteria for LCHIPs is they want to see evidence of community commitment in the form of money. So if that money was already appropriated in this budget and they could encumber it, that would be proof that the community supports it, and then it would increase their chances of getting an LCHIP.
All right, anything else for Diane? Okay, thank you, Diane.
Great, thank you.
Okay, moving on to fire. Did you take a break?
No.
All right.
Well,
It's not too late.
Are you okay if I correct myself from before? I wanted to correct something that I had said earlier.
Yes, go ahead, while the
Okay.
chief gets.
So, Elizabeth and I had realized, along with the help of Danielle, that in figuring out our math of how much over one budget has increased from year over year, that we were using some of the wrong numbers, because there's a revised budget that we were looking at. We were looking at the 2024 default budget to the 2025 select board budget, when we actually should have been looking at the 2024 revised budget to the 2025 select board budget. And so, I mean, for Parks and Rec, the difference was $1. It still would have been like 10% to figure that out. It's now the new like revised number that Parks and Rec has increased to, according to my very unofficial calculations, is 3.33%. I thought that was a fun number. And then we didn't make any cuts to the Goffstown, to the library's budget, and theirs is 12. So 12% year over year for library, 3.33% year over year for.
So the overall number was the same, that 13%, basically.
Yeah.
She's talking about the department breakdown.
Yes, department breakdown. In case people are keeping track at home.
Yeah.
I think I'm enjoying this. I'm gonna keep doing it.
Glad you're nerding out.
I love it. Oh my God, I love some math. Dude, 3.33, that's an angel number.
All right.
Trying to do math for the
Keep that out of the minutes. Okay, so we are on page 9 out of 20. There's an EMS, is that all of it, 9 and 10? What else am I looking at? No, here, this is just.
So you'll have emergency management and fire operations.
Yes.
Okay, so page 9 and 10, and then we'll move it to CIP. Elizabeth?
So, under emergency management, the CERT expenses are pretty underfunded. I mean, we're not talking about much money here, but I was just wondering about, your year-to-date was only $500, and you had $3,100 budgeted, and you requested the same for next year.
So actually, year-to-date on CERT is, we've expended $1,787.85.
Okay.
That leaves me a balance of $1,394.35. So we're about 56.2% spent. And those remaining funds, those will be used for, basically, CERT is a group of volunteers, community emergency response teams. We have about 30 of them. They assist both police and fire in a number of ways on large community events. For example, at Pumpkin Fest, they actually directed traffic for over 8 hours, which allowed the police department to, be able to be in the area on patrol and responding to all those types of emergencies. We had a large brush fire about a month ago up off of St. Anselm's Drive. About 7 of them come out at 3 in the morning, directed traffic around there and provided rehab. So their expenses are supplies that they need. We supply them with safety equipment, emergency vests, first aid backpacks. They're trading first aid and CPR. So that's what those funds are used for. And the remaining funds will be used they provide us rehab at larger emergencies, whether it's police or fire, with, they'll do blood pressure monitoring. They provide water, energy bars and stuff. When you're at a fire for a long time, you're expending all that energy. So they take care of that part with us. They have a fully stocked trailer that they take with them. So it's a huge benefit to the community.
So does that expense fluctuate with how often they get called out?
It could, yes, yeah. And that's the same with that whole emergency management line. If you look at it over the years, it stays pretty steady. That emergency management line also funds the Emergency Operations Center. So if we have a disaster, the emergency management, the EOC, Emergency Operations Center, is on the second floor of the fire station. So if we have to mobilize that for a disaster, some of those funds are used for that also.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't have any issue with CERT. I think they're great. I'm just looking at what the actuals have been, and it is, I mean, and again, this is really a small amount of money.
Right.
But it just seems like we're a little over budgeted on that line.
Yeah, I think you're looking back in October, and as of today, we had spent over 1,700 of it, or 56.2% of it.
Okay.
And the rest of it will be, a majority of it will be spent by the end of the year because we'll restock our rehab supplies.
Okay.
Brian?
Thank you, Chair. Chief, and I probably missed this, but on object code 44330, the physical examinations, are those mandatory physical examinations?
They are. They are through, it's called the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA 1582. They are physical, specifically designed for firefighters who are involved in firefighting, and it's an occupational physical.
Okay.
They include a full blood workup, testing for metals and everything, a full cardiogram, a chest x-ray, a breathing test that they have to take, an examination by a doctor.
Okay.
And so every active firefighter has to have one of those physicals. And unfortunately, as a matter of fact, in the last 2 years, 2 people we sent for physicals, it was discovered that they had cancer. So as unfortunate as it is, it's also life-saving also.
Right. And as a follow-up, the increase you're asking for, is that due to the rates have gone up for
It
the
is.
examinations? Okay.
We use Concentra
Yeah.
over in Manchester, so we call them a dog in a box, you know.
Right,
but,
yeah. All right, thank you.
I would just point out the fire department's budget is only up 3%. Is that
Yeah,
what you had?
yeah, I
said?
got 2.92, so it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's fine. I don't know
I
where it
rounded.
is, you guys. It's 3%.
Peter, go ahead.
Chief, I'm looking at operating supplies, and I'm not sure if you would be best to answer this, or if anyone, Kelly or anyone from the select board. The revised budget from the default. So default brought us into 23,000. We decided it was important to bring some more money in there. Again, that's operating supplies is what I'm looking at.
Can I have the line number on that?
That's 47,120.
Okay.
Is that, that's the line
So-
I'm looking for, right?
So that's one of the things that happens with default budgets, okay? So it may look higher than it was, and that's because, let me pull up my thing here.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not saying like, it increased from 23 to 35, but more so, it seems like we thought there was a reason to get it back to 35. I don't know what the requested amount was for 2024, though.
That was the requested amount for 2024.
So you brought it back to requested?
Yes, the 35,754.
Got it, okay, so then, yeah, if we could just speak to like why we wanted it at 35, considering that the year before, you'd only spent about 20.
So 47,120.
Chief,
Yep. Isn't it just
can I pass
because
this
it was
over to
the
you?
fall?
Those are the notes you had entered.
So so operating supplies really has a lot to do with, for example, equipment, operating supplies, equipment testing, and equipment repair. It's things provide for the cost to maintain our current fire equipment, new equipment purchases, testing, replacing damaged or aged equipment, We also have to annually test our ground ladders that we use in firefighting. Actually, all fire department ground ladders get tested because of OSHA. We have fire extinguisher maintenance and repair. Fire extinguishers are required to be hydrostatic tested every 5 years. We also, as part of a 2-year project, we are replacing some rescue rope equipment. This is for technical rescue, high rescue, below-grade rescue. And the current ropes that we use are like just coming up on 10 years of age. So you can imagine from storing and use and continual, you need to be able to replace them to hold the weights that you put on them for technical rescue.
Is that for, you said it's a 2-year thing, so you're planning on doing that for like this upcoming 2025 and then 2026?
So 2025 will be our second year. So
Okay,
this
so-
past year, we replaced,
Okay.
we spent $5,000 and replaced a significant amount. And then next year, that'll finish the rest of it for all the equipment that it's carried on. Thermal imaging camera replacements, that is the device that we can look into and get heat signatures in a smoke-filled building where you can't see anything. And we're able to locate victims. Actually, we use it with PD too if there's an accident in the dark, and we search around the woods and for all those type of items. So we're looking to replace one of those that is, again, over 10 years old. They're continually used, so they get banged up and everything. So we're looking, that's another part of that increase there. Water rescue suits, those are the cold immersion water rescue suits that we use for cold water and ice rescue. We have a couple of those that are torn, and if you've ever been in an ice rescue suit in the middle of winter and you jump in and there's a hole in it, you can understand why. And you can only,
I have not.
you can only patch them so much, you know, so.
Would you like to volunteer Peter for that?
Yeah,
I have jumped into the river at the Pumpkin Regatta.
oh, yeah.
Because,
So it's really, that's what the increase there is for all those operating supplies. And actually, that is down about $5,000.
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
The proposed 2025 is
Is down.
down 5,000
From the request last
from the
year.
request last year of 35.
Oh, gotcha, yeah.
It's down 15%.
Okay, Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know the committee's appetite or temperature on this, but again, out of principle, because I think about it so strongly, I make a motion to reduce object code 44100, professional dues, from $6,555 down to $6,315, and it's tied to the New Hampshire Association of Fire Chiefs, which is $240. And again, it's not the dollar amount, it's the principle behind, again, as a lobbyist organization, that we shouldn't be using private funds for public purposes when it comes to lobbying.
So,
Okay, hold on. Is there a second to Brian's motion?
Second.
Second by Frank. Go ahead, Chief.
so let me bring you through that whole line. Let's not just talk about one line, okay? And to someone else's point earlier, okay, I understand about lobbying and all of that, okay? But it's not all about political lobbying, okay? So let's say you cut that whole line, okay? Cut the whole line. Cut Border Area Mutual Aid Association, $100, okay? This is a mutual aid association of over 25 communities in southern New Hampshire that provides mutual aid to the town of Goffstown. For, if you want to cut, okay, and they do some lobbying. You know what type of lobbying they do? For the FEMA grants to help departments regionally, okay? So if you want to cut $100, let's cut $100 out of them and lose mutual aid help from 22 communities in southern New Hampshire, okay? See, Souhegan Mutual Aid, all the towns that border around us here, okay? 22 communities that provide us with mutual aid 5, 6, 7 times a week, okay? Because we're not staffed properly, all right? Then let's, we pay $75 for a swift water rescue team, okay? $75 a year, all right? Let's cut it for $75. And then when I come in asking you for $10,000 for the equipment for swift water rescue, you tell me where the savings is there, okay? Let's do Souhegan Hazmat Team Annual Assessment, $2,055. We get a full hazmat response team out of Nashua, New Hampshire for $2,055. Let's cut $2,055, and I'll be back asking for $50,000 for the proper equipment for us to respond to a hazmat, okay? New Hampshire Firemen's Association, the State Firemen's Association, they have a lobbyist too, okay? They provide fire departments in the state of New Hampshire for $1,100. They provide disability payments for firefighters, volunteer, full-time call that get hurt in the line of duty, okay? That's an expense the town doesn't have to pay for. They pay for someone that gets killed, a volunteer, a call firefighter. They give them a benefit and stuff. But what do they lobby for? They lobby for, at the state level, for benefits for call and volunteer firefighters, okay? Hillsborough County Fire Wardens, that's all the fire wardens in the area that we depend on each other for brush fires, okay? New Hampshire Association of Fire Chiefs, yeah, they have a lobbyist. They use the lobbyist to track legislation which directly affects fire departments and communities, okay? And we sit right next to all these, the Hampshire Municipal Association, to which this town belongs to, right, that lobbies on behalf of towns. And we sit next to them and partner with them to get legislation that benefits the community. We don't go against the communities. We're fire chiefs that work for communities itself. So, and, New Hampshire Fire Prevention Society, it is it's an association of fire prevention officers that network together, and they work together to better their careers. And the same with the Hampshire Health Association. Our community risk reduction director is also the health officer for the town, okay? I'm sure they may have a lobbyist too, when they're out there lobbying for the protection of the community. So it isn't all about political lobbying. It's about benefiting the communities. The New Hampshire Association of Fire Chiefs not only provides us with networking to talk with other fire chiefs and try and get ideas of what they're going about, but they provide us with free professional development too. So, if you want to cut it, cut it. But, it's counterproductive when you think a lobbyist is only there for, rogue political lobbying against your municipality when it's actually helping the municipality.
Laura?
This popped into my head earlier. I think we've actually not been proceeding correctly when we sort of debate the motion. I think we're supposed to go back and forth between someone against it, someone for it. Correct me if that's wrong. I don't know who.
That's accurate.
Thank you.
Well, and I've heard that before, but I've tried to allow the committee, the flexibility. If the committee wants me to get formal with the debate moderation, I'm happy to do that. But I always thought that we had a good relationship of listening to each other And if there's a voice that overpowers somebody else, like I try to move on to somebody else. And so if you'd like me to move into formal debate moderation, I can do that.
It was just a matter of are we following rules or not, and it's not about, you said something about how we want everyone to be heard. Everyone can still be heard. I just don't know when we're following a rule and when we're not. And I like it to be clear.
No, and what's tough is there's nothing in the rules of order that we adopted earlier this year that explicitly say what the chair must do. What we do is in cases where they're not adopted, we revert back to a certain rules of order if there's not reference. But I'm happy to go into I just thought it was okay the way it was, but if members are frustrated with the way I moderate debate, I can.
Joe, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just asking if there's a rule we should be following. I'm not saying we're doing it wrong, you need to do it different, it's frustrating. I just want to know what rules we're following and if we're supposed to be or not. That's it.
I think this is within our discretion to decide how we want to proceed, and I personally favor conversation over trying to keep some kind of formal back and forth.
That's fine, I just need to know the rule.
In the 6 years I was on the budget committee before, we never tried to moderate who's speaking opposed or against. It's too complicated, it would slow everything down, and in the end, you want to have conversations with people. So I say we just keep going the way we've been going.
Peter?
Can I just ask, Laura, if in the future, like I personally also agree with them, like I just think so far today, I haven't seen anything, but can you just, in the future, if you feel like it's becoming too one-sided, like let us know?
Oh,
Like, so that, I'm assuming our chair would easily be like, yeah, okay, hold on, let's take a pause, let's start.
It's not even that, it's just a matter of procedure. I didn't know if we were like literally doing this incorrectly and we were supposed to be holding ourselves to that rule. That's the only thing.
Okay, I mean, Danielle, correct me if I'm wrong, there's the rules of order. We didn't put anything in the rules of order regarding the moderation of debate.
Correct.
So right now, it's chair's discretion until there's a formal motion to do something?
We're looking at the most recent ones to make sure it's updated. I don't believe, there used to be a reference to Robert's rules, and that's still in there as kind of a general catch-all, but there's nothing specific about how debate will be carried out by the committee.
And I'm going to confess, I haven't read Robert's rules recently.
And that's fine, I just wanted to clarify if we were not doing something we should be
Okay.
doing for just procedural purposes.
Okay. So let's continue on Brian's discussion then. Is there anything else? So the chief outlaid what was in the line. Your motion is specifically the $240?
Yeah, for the New Hampshire Association of Fire Chiefs, which is the only one I knew of that actually that's a registered lobbyist.
It actually should be, if you're gonna take it, it's 460 because it's for two, for me and my deputy fire
Okay.
chief.
Appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, thank you.
Was that a modification?
Go ahead, Daniel.
I just wanted to clarify in my notes, was that a
Is-
modification of the
We haven't
Are
motion?
you
voted
amending?
yet.
So there was a motion and a second.
There was a motion and a second.
Yeah.
Do I need to
The motion
modify
was-
my motion?
The motion was 240, right?
240, but there's two,
So 480.
I thought the chief said 460. They're two different,
I'm
chief
sorry,
and
it's
deputy chief.
460 for two.
460 for two, so you want me to amend my motion?
Sure.
So I amend my motion to,
No. It's 130 each, but good.
Wait, what is it?
Okay, what's the number?
What is it?
that's 260. So I had 240 before.
Hold on, let me double check it.
Not to be a jerk,
Well-
but this isn't gonna pass.
The line says the line
Out
says
of principle.
460.
No, I hear
Have
you,
to.
buddy. I'm
Just
just
Chairman, the line says 460. If he's looking to wipe it out, then he's looking for 460.
Specific to the New Hampshire Association of Fire Chiefs. 460.
I stand corrected, I was looking at the wrong one.
So what, which?
Is it?
I believe it's 240. That's the,
Yes.
that's the budget detail that's in the budget.
All right, so
It was the wrong one. It
my
was-
motion stands, the
240.
240. All right.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. Any more discussion on this $240? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of Brian's motion, raise your hand. Any opposed? Mark Raynaud, Peter Grigorkakis, Doug Pounds, Olivia Welcher et al., Samantha Kearns, Richard Manzo, Allison DeCesare, Laura Stevens, Elizabeth DeBrule, Israel Carey, Kelly Boyer, and Frank Hobbs. So it was like 2 to, oh, abstentions is Jack, so 2 to 12 to 1. All right. Richard, do you have your hand up?
No, I did, but someone made my point, so.
Okay.
I just want to make a comment.
Okay.
And Chief, and I appreciate what you had to say, and I felt the emotion, because I know you service the community well and what you do. Please know, this is not a direct reflection on you or your staff. It's just out of principle on my constituents that I serve in regards to the principle behind how they're using their funds for public purposes. It was strictly the staff.
And I don't take offense to that, but what I do is that, you know, there's more to a budget line than half, one little line with an explanation and a number. And it's just that sometimes when we do things like that, okay, I've sat on budget committees, I've been budget committee chairman, but when, and I understand your principle too. As a matter of fact, the New Hampshire Fire Chiefs Associations at times has not get involved in some pretty serious legislation because it went against the local municipalities, take on it too. So there are organizations out there that are really advocates for their municipalities and not always there in an adversarial manner.
Okay, so we're looking on pages 9 and 10. Goodbye, Adam.
I'll go right to the middle if you want.
And you'd have to duck under or over.
I'll yield my time, Adam.
Adam Davis, 848.
He's in charge of getting the rooster up tomorrow morning.
All right, so let's move into CIP. Chief, I think the only 2 requests you have were an ambulance and a truck for your deputy.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I didn't know you were moving on to CIP.
Oh, that's fine. You can
So
go
I
back.
I know there was some talk about the SAFER grants and now a larger fire. I just want to make sure that we're talking about it here. If there's an issue with firefighter staffing, let's talk about it. I'm going to be honest, I did not vote for the SAFER grants as a private individual for just this reason, because I knew that you were going to pay the piper, and then taxes were going to go up once those grants were gone, and everybody was going to say, and they weren't going to remember that they voted for it. But now that we have it, and I've been surprised at the number of people who've said, how could we not have a 24/7 fire department? I mean, that's crazy to not have it, and it kind of changed my mind on the whole thing in the intervening years. But if there are people out there who have concerns about it, we should talk about it.
Well,
Everybody's
and,
good?
the other thing that complicates this is, again, as I said earlier, right, we're only a couple of years into going full 24-hour round-the-clock staffing. So when they initially went the route, when the board and decided to go to the 24 staffing, the only way it was supported was when the voters were presented, with a SAFER grant to offset it. And so again, we're very early in this stage, and emergency services are going to continue to rise. And we talked about staffing, and there's going to be further needs down in the future. And I think my professional opinion is the only way this community is going to be able to deal with that increase in the future is through the use of those SAFER grants. So, and I'm not here pushing for staffing this year, as I told you earlier. I definitely feel it's justified. What I'm here and what I think this board should have a discussion on this year is dealing with the recruitment and retention issue that we're facing, because we're behind the 8 ball right now, compared to other communities and things, so.
So, Chief, not including the CBA that's being discussed, what else would you say in this budget we need to look at to help with recruitment and retention?
Very much just, it is the CBA.
Okay, so it is the CBA, there's no sort of like uniform or merit pay or any, I'm trying to think, like anywhere else in the budget where you feel like that would help with your recruitment issues?
Yes, because that is our main cache of people is, the 24 people of the IFF.
Okay.
And they're also the core, of this fire department. And we're at a critical time because we're a very young department. There's not a lot of tenure. And some of our highest tenured employees only have 10 years with us, because when they were moving towards the 24-hour shift, you had a group of employees who had been here for 20 years, right? And they were reaching that retirement piece too. So that created the gap too. But the issue with recruitment and retention right now is you have a group of firefighters that are reaching their 4th, 5th, and 6th year here, okay? And in the fire service, at your 4th, 5th, and 6th year is when you make the critical decision of where you're going to end up for the rest of your career, right? Either you're going to commit to the organization that you're at now, or you're going to make a decision to move on, because you can't, keep jumping every 3-4 years to a new organization, because then you start on step 1 again. So if you're ever going to progress in your career, and the market out there is so competitive that we have to, at the very least, get to a point where we can remain competitive. And I don't sit before you today and tell you that this is the cure-all, okay? It's not. It's not the cure-all, but in my eyes, okay, and you've seen a lot of shifting, right? We told you, last year we were down 7. This year we got up close to just down 1, and then we lost another 6, okay? We have right now a core group of dedicated guys that are committed, and gals that are committed to this community. And if we want to keep that, if we want to moving forward in the future, develop, a succession plan and a future leadership in the fire department, we have to, make that commitment now, so.
So just the thought, when we talked before, when you were here before and we talked about this, we talked about there are all sorts of factors that lead into retention. And, the quality of the facilities, the availability of equipment. And I just want to make sure that I'm understanding you correctly. You think the number one thing is going to be salaries?
Yes.
That's what we're talking about here. You think that's going to help you more than anything else? That's where we should put our funds, is in salaries.
Yes, because we can't do staffing right now because I'm down 6 people, right? So that would be so counterproductive, right, to try and put more staffing when when we can't get to that number. But I am confident I can close that gap, and we can start to really see a difference in, keeping people here.
Okay. And then obviously the overtime line is going to drop as you staff up and as you get more, because right now, aren't you guys working overtime to cover all these staff shortages?
They are. They don't cover every shift, believe it or not. It's a misnomer, right? They don't run they don't run to overtime. Remember, they've worked 24 hours.
Right.
And you saw the chart we provided you with. they're lucky if in one of their 24-hour shifts, right, they get 5, 6 hours of sleep, you know, so, but let's say the overtime costs will stabilize for sure, you know, because you're not filling those vacancies.
Okay.
And be clear too, we're also doing our part, you know, by, thanks to the support of the board, okay? They allowed me to go out and increase the hourly rate for part-time paramedics and per diems, right? Because, for example, New Boston Fire, small New Boston Fire, convinced their board to raise the hourly rate for AEMTs and paramedics from $24 for AEMTs, $30 for paramedics, and every per diem EMT and paramedic in the area went to New Boston, right? So I brought that concept to our board. They understood the benefit of it, and as soon as we did that, I was able to bring on, you know, 6 or 8 other AEMTs and paramedics with the cooperation of the union, right? And we're using those per diem and part-time people to give those guys a break, you know, because of the shortages and all the makeup that they have to do. So we save overtime in that way too.
So they would be, the crews would be making more money, and they'd be happier because they would have a better work-life balance, not trying to fill all this overtime.
Right. And I gotta tell you the stress that goes with it.
Okay.
You know, running, we talked about, you know, the multiple calls they go through, call to call. It is pretty stressful.
Okay.
All right, any other questions for the chief?
And the only other, if I may, the only other, you know, we told you we're doing a lot with recruitment, and currently, right now, we have 5 little babies that have been born within the last couple months that, as soon as they can sign their name, we'll, you know, fill out an application. But, you know, that plays into it too, right? They have a home life just like everyone else, and I'm going to, you know, advocate for them all day long. They have this community's back, and they are committed to it. So if we can do something for them there, the community and everyone else benefits.
So, Chief, I want to talk real quick about your ask for $70,000 for another command vehicle.
Yep.
I asked during the hearing, currently the miles are at 65,000. So it seems like you're doing about 9,285 miles a year roughly, maybe 10 grand.
If you average it that way, yeah.
Do you think it doesn't pose a safety risk to push that command vehicle out 1 year?
So, I'm trying to accomplish 2 things with that, Mr. Chairman. Number one, replace it, because it does run hard, but also, for a number of years, I've been asking for an additional utility vehicle. So, I went to the CIP committee and told them that when I was going to replace this one, this vehicle is going to be moved down as a utility vehicle, which right now, we're short one utility vehicle. So if, let's say, the crew down at Station 2 in Pinardville needs to come up to the village, okay, they'll take, they have to take the engine in the ambulance. And it's, you know, it's 6-8 miles each way, right? And here they are, they're taking this large apparatus just to come down for supplies and things. The purpose of the utility vehicle is to put it down at that end, so if they need to, you know, come up here without moving all that apparatus, save wear and tear on it. Also, if we have only one paramedic on duty, you know, if he's down in Pinardville, instead of having to put them in the engine or another ambulance to go support a advanced life support, we can put them in this utility vehicle and have them respond and significantly save on the wear and tear of that larger apparatus.
Okay. Laura?
Thank you. Remind me, is this one of the vehicles that we will get the same year which we purchase it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, fortunately.
Yes.
Not, unlike ambulances, which are 3 and 4. And I will also just on CIP to remind you too, that we have the 350,000 for the apparatus capital reserve.
Yes. Elizabeth?
On CIP also, there's facility repairs. You originally asked for 120, the select board bumped that down to 20.
Yep.
I'm sorry if you already went over this with us. I
Nope.
don't remember. What was your original ask for?
So the backstory to that was, for a number of years now on CIP, there's been $1.6 million to renovate the Station 2 Pinardville Fire Station. And as I went back and looked at it, you know, it's been there every year, but it's never gone anywhere, you know? So my thinking was, and because 1.6 is a lot, my thinking was that I want to start doing renovations a little at a time instead of, you know, keep just pushing, saying, all right, we're going to get it. So because we're coming to it in 2026, I decided that I would remove the 1.6 million and ask for $120,000, which was to do two things. One was going to be about $100,000 to pave the parking lot around the fire station. There's drainage issues, the pavement, because of the weight of the apparatus over the years, is breaking down and everything. And then the 20,000 was going to be used to conduct a HVAC study for the building. Currently, it's not ancient, but there is an older HVAC system. There is no forced hot air conditioning. We're literally using window air conditioners there. We had air conditioners that everyone donated to us, and they were so energy efficient. You turn one on, and 3 would turn off, you know, because of the draw. So last year, I went out and bought some energy efficient ones. But, so my goal is, well, then we were able to identify some grant funds, and I keep forgetting the name of it. One was the New Hampshire.
Invest New Hampshire.
Invest New Hampshire, and there was some other funds identified. The board allowed me to go out to RFP this year for paving. We got a low bidder in Continental Paving, so for about $85,000, they were awarded the bid, and we're going to pave that. Looks like we're not going to be able to do it this year, but we're going to encumber it and enter a contract to do next year. Haven't seen that, then the board agreed, and I agreed to remove that 100,000. So we're
Okay.
just going with the 20,000.
Okay.
So I'm still a little hung up over this vehicle thing. I see car 1, car 2, and then car 3 is U2. Does that mean utility vehicle 2? So is car 3 used as a utility vehicle?
Yes, it's a utility.
So you have 2 utility vehicles already.
Car 2 is a command vehicle.
Yeah, that's the one that you wanted to replace.
Yes. So the one utility that's assigned to not only the training officer, but that's used for Station 1.
Okay, and then utility 2 is technically car 3?
No, utility 2 is, it's the fire, community risk development developer. It's his assigned vehicle for inspections, fire investigation.
Okay.
So I can see where, you know,
That's,
that.
I was confused because it said U2 as well, and
Yes.
then it threw me
Yeah.
off a little. All right, I'm good now.
Okay, thanks.
All right, any other questions for the fire chief? Thank you, Chief.
We are hiring,
I
and
don't think I'm qualified.
I will extend my invitation again to anyone on the board that wants to come and ride along. Mr. Chairman, I'm waiting for your call, and we'll do it. But thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. is the committee interested in covering town hall? Okay. Because we have opportunity next meeting to do 3 more departments and still have time, so I guess what's the appetite of the committee? Move forward or 12, 10?
Let's push it to next time.
What departments are next time?
It's police, and they're gonna be here either way, so that's why, no offense, but they're gonna be here, so.
Yeah.
It's already 9 o'clock.
It's
so
already
if-
9.
I'm thinking next Tuesday, we can do town hall, police, and DPW. And then that Thursday, we can do the water precincts. I know I told you Tuesday, but I mean Thursday. And then we can talk holistic, and then that still leaves us with 12-17, 12-19,
Go back.
and future if needed, so. I don't wanna keep everybody wicked late. I got a big day tomorrow, but.
I agree.
is that
Motion
okay?
to adjourn.
All right, so hold on, before that.
I have one more thing too, though.
Okay, before that, okay, yes, let's keep talking for a minute, go ahead.
Well, just for the committee, so I talked to Brian Balke, because I wanted to shadow the Dean of Students. So it's not confirmed yet, but next Tuesday, he's gonna, well, I guess I'm not confirmed, but next Tuesday, we're slated to, well, I'm gonna be slated to go and observe or shadow the Dean of Students across the 3 schools. So I want to put it out to you guys, if that does get confirmed, does anyone want to participate in that with me when it's confirmed?
What time is it at? Do you know?
It's not confirmed yet. It's going to be probably the Tuesday, the 10th, but not sure if it's going to be the...
Depending upon the time, I'd be interested, but it kind of depends.
Yeah.
I'll have Brian notify the
Yeah.
committee so that we
That'd be
know.
great.
I just want to put it on your radar because it's coming.
Well, and see, that's part of it too, so we'll chat more about that.
What's that?
If they would
I
be
don't know if
okay
they're
with
okay
like.
with multiple people, and there's also IEP questions that you
No, I know. Like I said, I just wanted to kind of gauge the interest. Like if it's all of us, then yeah, I don't think they can accommodate that. But if it's like 2 or 3 people, I'm sure they can accommodate that.
Yeah.
Most likely, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need do you guys have updates? Jack?
So did school just get bumped out for the 12th? There was supposed to be library and town and school, I thought, on the other thing, the school
Nope,
callback.
12-12 is gonna be
Village
village, water precincts, and school.
and school callback,
Yep.
okay.
All we did was move the town hall to
Okay.
12:10. Jack, do you have an update for us from the school board? It's okay, I thought.
I think not, I think that you've got most of the information, right? You got that most of your questions were answered, except for the breakdown of the administrators' roles and positions, and so that will be ready. I know they're working on it, they were going over some stuff, and that, Brian plans to be here on the 12th, to be part of that discussion and answer any questions that, I think I'm up on the 12th then also, that I can't answer. Jared's here Tuesday, I'm here on the 12th.
Jack Kelly?
Yeah, well, some funding updates. The town hall was using some NH municipal grants for trying to do some work reorganizing the upstairs of the town hall. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get the bid out in time to secure that for this year, so reallocating those funds to fund the other half of the server refresh project, which is really exciting. So we were able to get that funded this year through grant projects. So Brian is going to be very busy soon for a long time, but that's a project that needed to be done. So just letting you all know, you won't see that back on the budget. And then if you wouldn't mind passing those down, please, in that way. So something else that I wanted to talk about was that we've had a lot of questions at Town Hall about the Hadley Falls tax situation. So I wanted to take some time to, Derek very kindly put together this informational fact sheet, and we wanted to share some basic information with the Budget Committee so that you can all help educate the public correctly. Although I wasn't on the Select Board in 2017 when this was voted through, the initial voting through happened at that point in time along with the public hearing. And then this starts officially for their group in April 1st of 2025 and is for 5 years, and they'll be fully taxed in 2030. So I just wanted to provide some clarification. There seems to be a lot of misinformation going around about this project and how the tax incentive is used and why and all of that. So there's a lot of information in here. So if anyone has questions, we can certainly answer. But we also, Derek included a list of other businesses that have used this specific tax incentive in the past. And I just want to note that the select board hasn't received any proposals. I think that was the last one, but has never approved more than 5 years. So that's typically the threshold for this incentive. You don't have to read it now, but just wanted everybody to have the full scope of information.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. For additional information on my end, there's 5 sets of meeting minutes sitting here. Grab those on the way out if you want. Danielle is going to email us a link where you can find the meeting minutes, but there's paper copies here, so probably first order of business next week is to go on these 5 sets of minutes, just so you guys are prepared to vote on those. And other than that, I have to do a public comment, so is there anyone else here for public comment? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Now, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
What's the motion? Like, you have to tell me what it is.
A motion to adjourn.
Okay, great. Motion to adjourn by Brian, second by Elizabeth. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I have discussion. Doug did this earlier, and
I didn't
stole
know
that
that
stole it from him. Okay? No, Doug
Did he do it?
Motion by Doug, second by Elizabeth. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? We're adjourned.